The main character couldn't believe what was happening. He was wrapped in a bamboo mat and thrown into the river. Unable to move, he felt himself falling. He remembered that robbers had mysteriously broken into his house. It was hard to tell in the darkness what was going on. But suddenly, a bright light appeared. The hero saw an insect flying up to a predatory flower. He was in the middle of the forest. Although he was sure that before that he had been sleeping at home, the boy looked around in fear, and then his gaze fell on the reflection in the river. He was horrified. An incomprehensible creature was looking at him. It seemed to be dressed in an egg suit. The hero could not believe that it was really him. This transformation could only be explained by illness. A screen of characteristics suddenly appeared in front of him. Now he could see what kind he belonged to, what skills and magical powers he possessed. Despite all this, he was now in a normal state. A voice appeared in his head and told the hero that he belonged to the dragon egg species. This is an F-rank monster. This was how the divine voice skill worked, which explained things like status and items. The egg looked around helplessly, hoping that the speaker would show up and tell it that everything that was happening was just a prank or a dream. But the divine voice could give no such explanation. The hero screamed and tried to find out who this so-called god was, where he was watching him from. But the answer was repeated that the voice could not give such explanations. The guy wanted to grab his head, but then he remembered that he didn't even have arms anymore. He finally accepted the fact that he had a lot of problems and decided to first figure out what was going on. It seemed like he had become some kind of monster egg, and with a tail too. The voice explained that the hero was a dragon hatchling in the early stages of development. Of course, he didn't need that answer. His brain was still underdeveloped. All he could do was spin. This surprised the boy, because right now he was thinking, if the shell breaks, the hero will die. Many eggs don't survive to adulthood because their insides are really tasty. It's not surprising if an adventurer encounters an egg and breaks it. The hero was outraged by this attitude as to a parasite. If the traveler tries to return the egg, the parent will follow him by smell and try to kill him. Therefore, this is not a very reasonable action. The divine voice could not explain the most important question of how the guy ended up in this situation. And then he noticed a worm nearby. It was a F-rank dark worm. The monster's name was Egg Eater, and the hero was very scared when it moved towards him. The egg jumped up, barely managing to dodge the blow. A giant hornworm with fangs chased the hero. Only at that moment did he accept that everything that was happening was real. The worm opened its mouth, and a divine voice announced that dragon eggs were the favorite food of these creatures. The hero cursed, because he was not at all used to the new body and could not run normally. Then he tripped and rolled down the mountain. As he hit the tree, he saw a notification in front of him about the new skill he had acquired, fall resistance. Due to the hard drop, the hero's HP dropped a little, but the rotation level increased. The boy looked back and saw that the monster was still chasing him. But thanks to the fact that he was rolling, the distance between them was reduced. Since the spin level had gone up, it was logical to assume that it was faster when it rolled. To confirm this guess, the hero tried to roll again. It was really fast, and he decided that he could escape this way. But then he realized that the speed was so great only because he was rolling down. The guy kept thinking about why this worm needed him. But it still didn't slow down, and it was already quite difficult to dodge the attacks. The hero understood that he would not escape like that, and tried to figure out what to do. A cliff appeared on the way. He realized that this was a dead end. The guy was very angry that this worm was chasing him and taking him for just a simple egg. But inside, he is still a man. This inspired him. The hero jumped. As he jumped, he began to spin quickly and strike the enemy. The worm's HP dropped from 8 to 5. This was clearly not enough to win, but the guy decided not to give up. He continued to strike with even greater force. Finally, the worm fell. It was crushed. The hero's HP dropped from level 4 to level 1. He overestimated his fall resistance skill. If the worm hadn't softened his fall, the guy would have been dead by now. But he is still okay, and the dark worm is defeated. The hero was happy that he survived. Suddenly, he saw a notification in front of him that he had received 12 experience, just like in the game. The title of Walking Egg gives an additional 12 experience. The hero thought, now the dragon egg has reached the maximum level. It has risen from level 1 to level 5. The evolution conditions have been met. If killing just one worm gave the maximum level, then it must have been a truly terrible creature. And it's a miracle that the hero survived. However, he got double the experience. But evolution was also mentioned. The hero couldn't understand what this meant. It seemed incredible that he would hatch and become a dragon. The divine voice became quite talkative and offered to tell what options for evolution there were. There were two. The hero prayed to become a normal being, and not something like a big egg. The first option is a small dragon. It is larger than a bear, and its fiery breath scares travelers. The guy thought that such a dragon could easily beat a worm. That is why he should be chosen. The second option was the baby dragon. It is very tasty because of its soft meat, especially good with sauce. The hero was horrified by this bloody culinary show. The divine voice continued to say that his paws and claws were small. Therefore, he could be called weak. However, he had high potential. But most monsters and travelers hunted him. The boy couldn't listen to it anymore. Of course, he would choose the little dragon, because he didn't want to become a snack. But suddenly a strange voice began to repeat to him that he should become strong. The hero could not understand what was happening. The speaker had big plans for the guy and asked not to disappoint him. To achieve the goal of becoming the best, you need to choose only one difficult path. The egg looked around in fear. A notification appeared that the divine voice had reached the second level. Based on this, it could be assumed that now it was a divine voice. The hero felt that someone wanted to subjugate his will by force. It was creepy. Apparently, the divine voice skill allowed him to talk to a self-proclaimed god. At first, the guy used it as a game guide, but this someone was actually watching him from somewhere. The hero began to doubt his original choice. Perhaps he really should have chosen the dragon child. It would have given him more benefit in the long run. Finally, he decided to take the one with the most potential. Since he was told to become the strongest, the only option was the dragon child. The egg cried out that it was choosing the dragon child. At that moment, the shell cracked and began to split. The baby dragon hatched. It had the titles of the Dragon King's son and walking egg. Now it had skills such as baby breathing, whistling, and playful bite. The hero moved. He was very pleased with the fact that he had arms and legs. The dragon approached the river and bent down to quench his thirst. The hero began to reflect. With his humanization, or rather draconization, it was time to put everything in order. It was clear that he was clearly in a world with game elements like experience and a status window. He first appeared in this world as an egg, probably a dragon's. If you defeat enemies, you can gain experience that will help him level up. He chose a dragon child. An incomprehensible divine voice tells him to become the strongest. The guy began to imagine how muscular he would become. The hero can't explain why, but the divine voice seemed to be responsible for the current situation. Perhaps this is the key to everything. Although it is impossible to hunt with these hands, he will have to solve this riddle. The dragon woke up from his thoughts and turned around to find himself surrounded by a huge number of worms. It had clearly been a bad day. Apparently, the defeated worm called for help. Previously, the guy would have said how hard it was for him to beat one of them. But not now. The dragon used the skill Baby Breath. The hero struck and noticed that the body moved exactly as he wanted. Considering what he was like now, it was impossible to lose this battle. With each new blow, the boy gained more and more experience. His value had already reached 48. The title of Walking Egg gave him 48 experience. The dragon was surprised that he was still getting experience from this title. After all, it was essentially cheating. During the battle, notifications about gaining experience and levels constantly flashed in front of him. The dragon child received the fighter skill. He is growing by leaps and bounds. The hero moved from level 1 to level 15. There were 25 levels in total. Other indicators also increased. The baby dragon is already quite strong. It will probably evolve again soon. The hero accepted the goal of becoming the best. Now he wanted it himself. He didn't know the deity's plan, but he was sure that he would solve this issue when he gained power. 3 days passed. The dragon walked with difficulty along the path, leaning on a stick. He was out of breath. It turned out that it was very difficult to survive here. It drove him crazy. The hero decided to become stronger, but in this world even food was really hard to find. He couldn't find any fruits or berries, So he ate mushrooms, but it almost killed him. The boy naively believed that if he was a dragon, everything would be fine. But the mushrooms turned out to be so toxic that he even received the skill of poison resistance. Another setback was receiving an unflattering title. Besides being the son of a dragon and a walking egg, he was now clumsy. Besides, the monsters always ran away when they spotted him. Only the dark worms and similar creatures dared to approach him. One day he gave in to hunger and tried to eat one of them after frying it. But the guy tries to erase this memory. It was the taste of a nightmare, but thanks to his high level, the hero could easily beat monstrous animals, such as, for example, the horned rabbit of the 4th level. He delivered a dragon strike to the monster that had crept up behind him. This brought him additional experience points. All these actions gradually made the hero stronger. But most of all, the dragon was tormented by loneliness. He was alone in this unfamiliar forest full of monsters. The hero covered his face with his hands, tears streaming from his eyes. The divine voice was very laconic. The dragon wished he could understand how to live with such feelings. A notification appeared about the acquired skill, Resistance to Loneliness. But he didn't want that kind of sympathy. He didn't want to become someone who could remain lonely. He didn't want to be alone. Suddenly, the hero began to wonder how it happened that he got into the very first place. He could not remember his previous life at all. He only knew that he was a human. The dragon imagined that he was sent to a distant land where he was experimented on in a terrible laboratory, and immediately received the title of What an Idiot. He was very embarrassed. It was not even clear what this title gave. The hero sighed. Hunting monsters alone was a pretty rough business. He hadn't gained levels past 20, and he seemed to be really depressed. The dragon became curious if there were people in this world at all. He was afraid to even think about the fact that monsters were the only creatures in this world. The hero grabbed his head in horror and began to roll on the grass. He needed to meet people. Suddenly, he heard something. The sounds were very reminiscent of human voices. The hero ran to where they were coming from. He didn't understand their language, but he knew for sure that they were people. The dragon hid behind a tree and saw 3 figures. He froze in delight. They were a girl, a man, and an old man. The hero didn't know what to do. After all, he was a monster and therefore was afraid to go out. But he managed to gather his strength. He was given a chance, and he had to take it. He might not see people again. Despite his creepy appearance, he can show them that he has no hostile intentions. The dragon decided to look as harmless as possible. Then people would think he was friendly. The hero came out of hiding, and people noticed him. He tried to act casual and even used the whistle skill. He saw that the people were dressed in armor and robes. These are fantasy-style clothes. Perhaps this is really such a type of world. The man waved his hand and smiled. It seemed like the plan to befriend them was working. The stranger continued to smile and came closer and closer. The hero thought that he looked really cute now. Suddenly, the man pulled out a sword and struck the dragon. He was thrown back. The blow was critical. Now the old man came up to him. He swung his staff and dealt a paralyzing blow. The dragon child was immobilized and could only cry out in pain. It seemed incredible that they used air, slash, and magic. The hero was in despair and tried unsuccessfully to lift his body. He did not understand why they treated him like that. Suddenly, he remembered the words of the divine voice that the dragon child was very tasty, thanks to its soft meat. People had already prepared cutlery and sauce. The hero regretted that he had forgotten these words. He realized that he would be eaten. The girl's name was Miriania. She had the skills of Restoration and Fireball. Das Daggermalt had the highest stat values. Skills included Shockwave, Flame Slash, and Intimidate. Old Man Grant's Granzar could summon a Fireball, Graviton, Lightning Strike, and Wind Cutter. The baby dragon was paralyzed. The man with the sword was advancing on him, and the old man and the girl were standing aside. As he approached, the dragon realized with horror that another such blow would kill him. He can't even move because of pain and paralysis. Suddenly, the girl stood in front of him. The hero could not understand what was happening. It was hard to believe that this girl was protecting him. The 2 men laughed at her and left. Things had taken a different turn. It looked like everything would be fine now. The girl directed her hands at the dragon, and a glow appeared. The pain receded. She used restoration magic. The girl spoke in a language the hero didn't understand, but he assumed it was an apology. She probably also asked if he was okay. Miria stroked his head. It had been so long since anyone had been kind to him. The dragon began to cry. He was embarrassed and covered his eyes with his hands, but the tears did not stop. The girl was scared. She didn't understand that the hero was not crying because of pain. Miria seemed very sweet to him. She went so far to protect him, and even now, she's still worried about him. After she restored the dragon's HP, the pain was almost gone. If she didn't catch up with the others, she would get into trouble. But the hero really didn't want to let her go. He would lie like this on her lap forever and listen to her voice, just a little longer. Suddenly, a notification appeared that the skill language Grisha was received. In addition, the title Liar. The divine voice knew exactly how to make the hero feel guilty. His hopes rose and then collapsed in the same second. Now, the hero had a general idea of this world. It all depended on skills. If he continued the conversation, he would probably be able to learn this language faster than in his past life. In any case, he didn't want their time together to end. The dragon was curious about where this girl came from. If there was a village or something similar nearby, it was important to find out where. The hero could be a stray cat who became attached to the person who fed her. Perhaps the girl would allow him to follow her under such a pretext. Suddenly, a terrible roar was heard. It came from the direction where those two had gone. Miria and the dragon were scared. It sounded like a scream, but the girl was ready to go there. The hero thought it was very dangerous. The roar was different from the small creatures that lived here. The dragon couldn't let her go. This was not an opponent she could handle. He tried to stop her, but he could only crawl with difficulty. It was a state of minor paralysis. Miria smiled guiltily. The dragon shouted at her to wait for him. She spent hers MP, using recovery magic on him. Once she got there, she couldn't do anything. The dragon, scratching the ground, tried to move. He thought it was pointless, but he still continued to force himself. The hero was angry with the girl. He understood that even with his help, the chance of winning was slim. But if he acted with all three people, they could escape and survive. The problem was that guy. Dawes probably wouldn't be cooperative. But anyway, the dragon had the highest agility score of them all. When the time came to escape, he'd be safe. The hero stopped. He saw the silhouette of a monster in the distance. The paralysis passed. There was only one monster, but the dragon needed to check its status. It was a huge stone dragon. Its stats were very high. Some skills reached level 6. In addition, it was in the final stage of evolution. For the hero, what was happening was a mockery. He did not know what to think of. Their chances of winning were 0. He imagined the monster to be smaller. It was naive to think that together they would drive it away. The hero heard a divine voice that urged him to run away from here right now. Obviously, the monster's stats were 3 times higher than his, and the hero had no useful skills to counter it. It was like going hand-to-hand with an elephant. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. He had to escape from here as quickly as possible. And the monster was already looking at him, but he didn't seem to notice it and went in the opposite direction. Suddenly, the hero saw Miria. She was lying unconscious. He got angry and jumped on the monster to strike. The damage was minor. The hero's body trembled under the gaze of this monster. A divine voice advised him to flee, but he ordered him to be silent. The hero could not abandon his benefactor. Therefore, his heart was not afraid of this monster. He decided to attract the monster's attention to himself, because he was very tasty for him. The hero must not let fear take hold of him. He had to calm down and think about what to do next. First of all, he must not get under his attacks. The only thing they had a slight difference in was agility. It was possible to take advantage of that. The stone dragon swung its tail. The hero barely managed to notice it and dodged it. The monster was in a state of minor paralysis and could not move normally. The hero remembered the old man who had such magic, and he saw Grants lying dead to the side. He couldn't think about it now. Dawes must be somewhere too, and he saw him, pinned under a tree. The guy was still alive, but unconscious. Saving him would take a little time. In any case, the hero could not carry both of them on his back and escape from here. He saw only one way out. He decided to use the perfect skill for this case, the roll, which reduces the enemy's agility and attack. The hero spun and struck one after another. The monster tried to damage him with its fire breath, but it was too clumsy. The stone dragon was trapped in a ring and disoriented. The title of King of Evasion has been obtained, At this rate, the monster's concentration will be reduced, but the main thing is to take it away from here and then escape. The hero's plan was to make the monster retreat. Then he would come back for the two people. As a result, he would have a chance to save them. The hero gathered all his attention and strength, and he set himself up to do it and dodge. But suddenly, the monster used a shockwave. The powerful blow threw the hero back. It was the skill earthquake. The hero couldn't believe that the enemy had an attack that could cover the area around him. The hit was not direct, so the wound was not deep, but it was impossible to completely dodge it. There was a girl lying next to the hero, and he couldn't let the monster get close to him. The monster used this attack again, but the dragon managed to cover Miria. There was an explosion. The hero hit the tree hard. He looked at the girl. She was still alive. It was all or nothing now. The dragon felt he had to do something to save her. The monster used the bite skill, and the hero decided that this was his chance. He struck the dragon straight in the mouth. The blow was critical. The baby dragon rejoiced. No matter how hard you are, your mouth can be damaged from the inside. The hero lifted the girl onto his back. He needed to hurry, because the monster wasn't too badly hurt, and used the moment while he was confused. But it turned out that the enemy's self-healing was too fast. He was very strong. The dragon was in despair. The hero looked at the boy lying under the tree for the last time. He couldn't help him. He had to save himself. The dragon ran with all his might. But the monster did not move. The hero noticed that he was not pursuing him. But Miria was wounded. Her HP was still depleting due to bleeding. At this rate, she would definitely die. The hero remembered that when the three of them appeared, they didn't look particularly tired. Most likely there is a human settlement nearby. If he takes her there, he can find a doctor who can use recovery magic. It seems that the way has been found. Meanwhile, the girl woke up. The hero saw a village. He approached one of the houses and laid the girl down next to it. He had to call someone here. The dragon tried to scream as loudly as possible. His strength was running out. The people in the house, sitting at the table, heard this cry and became alert. Two men came out into the yard. The hero saw them and was very scared. The people were talking loudly about something. The dragon did not understand their speech, but it was obvious that they had misunderstood everything. The hero understood that it was hopeless, but he decided to try to explain everything. He moved towards her, but he was already met with pitchforks and fists. The dragon could not bear this and hid in the forest. The hero understood that they reacted this way because they saw a monster next to a bloody girl. He was worried about her, but there was nothing else he could do. He was upset and hoped that he had done a good job. He wanted to become stronger, wanted to become strong enough to protect those around me. A notification appeared about receiving the title of Helping Spirit, but then his strength finally left him, and the tiny hero fell asleep. Warm sunbeams crept through the window and caressed her as she lay on the bed. Slowly opening her eyes, she woke up and, as if remembering something important, she rose abruptly, hearing at the same moment someone's voice talking about the rising and shining sun. She called out to her and, assuming that she was still awake, told her that she had suffered serious injuries and that the bleeding had stopped, adding that she had slept for 2 days. While the astonished girl was just beginning to comprehend what was happening, wondering about returning to the village, the other indignantly continued to talk about what an idiot he was for going off on his own, and who would have expected that he would actually engage in battle with a stone dragon. She asked anxiously what had happened to Duzan and Grants, and was told briefly that both were dead. One had been found in the forest, and the other had most likely been eaten without ever being found. She thought, sadly, that she seemed to be the only one to have survived. Patting her head, she told her that she had done a good job, and that she needed to rest, expressing her joy at saving her. While the one she had saved was pondering over what had happened, suggesting that perhaps her trip to the forest had caused the tragedy, the other one was slowly walking away, mentally fuming at how he could drag her student because of drunken bragging, and not wanting to speak ill of him, thinking that he was not someone who could be trusted, irritably recalling his boastful words about easily defeating the stone dragon. The girl asked if she had pulled her out of the forest. In response, she only asked her again what she meant by rescuing her from the forest, specifying that she had found her on the outskirts of the village, and wondered if she had run away on her own. She countered that she could never have done it herself, and was sure that someone had brought her. While she thoughtfully suggested that she might have been saved by a dragon, she said that she probably needed to rest, offered to heat up some soup, and asked her to wait, promising to talk later, once she had taken care of herself. The dragon cub fought bravely on his battlefield. After completing the endless grind and evolving to max level with the title of Calamity, the dragon hatchling reflected that this approach was undoubtedly the most effective way to level up. After completing the endless grind and evolving to max level with the title of Calamity, the dragon hatchling reflected that this approach was undoubtedly the most effective way to level up. After that, the dragon hatchling went to different places to level up. The most effective method was to capture a black worm and use its ability to summon allies. He figured he only needed to capture one to get all the others, noting that it was an old game trick that still worked. He realized that despite the many enemies he had defeated, he felt almost no remorse, perceiving them only as a source of experience, which is how he received the title of Path of Evil. He decided that he would no longer use this method, considering the experience gained not worth it. However, after a brief internal hesitation, he came to the conclusion that their valuable sacrifice would allow him to make the long-awaited evolution. After looking around and making sure that the area was safe, he firmly answered yes to the question about demonstrating their potential evolution. Baby Dragon Rank D is a child dragon that has continued evolution. Although it is still growing, its physical abilities have been greatly improved. Child Marble Dragon, rank D+, is a dragon whose skin has mutated into a pattern resembling water drops. It has a higher potential in magic than other species. The Small Dragon, rank C, is about the same size as the small breeds, but unlike the fast-growing Little Dragon, its full maturity is very powerful, although it does not have as many evolution options. Little Angel Dragon, rank C, is excellent at using white magic, and they often work together with children since they are a fairly friendly species, and their combat potential is not particularly high. Whereas Child Plague Dragon, rank D, is a child of an evil dragon that spreads disaster and is a priority target for extermination. Since their intelligence is high, it often tricks people using the skill. The dragon cub felt like he was facing a dangerous choice, and one name was especially worrying. Suddenly, the idea of a, quote, human transformation popped into his mind. After receiving it, he assumed that he would be able to visit human villages like everyone else, and that the little angelic dragon was also attractive, but their combat power was low, and they didn't have many paths for further evolution. After thinking about it, he came to the conclusion that although they were considered evil dragons, he wondered if it would be good if he, while in a bad body, retained his goodness. He had special skills: Level 2 Dragon Scale, Level 3 Boss Voice, Level 1 Pear Tongue, Level 1 Flight, Level 1 Dragon Scale Powder. Resistance skills: Level 3 Physical Resistance, Level 4 Fall Resistance, Level 3 Hunger Resistance, Level 3 Poison Resistance, Level 4 Loneliness Resistance, Level 2 Magic Resistance, Level 2 Darkness Resistance. He held the following titles: Son of the Dragon King, Walking Egg, Level 4 Clumsiness, Level 1 What a Fool, Level 3 Fighter, Level 2 Insect Killer, Level 1 Safe Thinking, Level 1 Liar, Level 1 Evasion King, Level 4 Helping Spirit, Level 1 Little Hero, Level 2 Evil Path, Level 1 Calamity. His usual skills included Level 2 Roll, Level 2 Status Check, Level 2 Child's Breath, Level 1 Whistle, Level 2 Dragon Strike, Level 1 Filth Breath, Level 1 Poison Fang, Level 1 Paralysis Claws. He turned into a child of the Plague Dragon. He looked at his body carefully, trying to determine if he had grown in size, and noticed that his skin had become darker and he felt stronger. Realizing that there was no mirror, he could not assess his entire appearance, but what he saw seemed quite grotesque. Opening his skill windows, the names of which made him a little uneasy, he wondered if Dragon Scale Powder and Corruption Breath were good choices for his evolution. He was glad to learn that he could now see the details of his skills, and decided that it was time to explore these strange abilities. The skill Dragon Scale Powder was used to weaken nearby monsters by spreading a cursed miasma, with the wings automatically distributing the powder when they spread. The skill Breath of Corruption allowed one to attack with a breath containing terrible diseases that would cause severe conditions and indiscriminately affect any creature in the vicinity. In addition, it is said that 2,000 years ago, the evil dragon Jabberwocky destroyed the happiest country in history using this skill, and the baby dragon was surprised that they were much worse than he imagined. A little worried, he tried to calm himself down by thinking that the choice had already been made and the next evolution should fix the situation. However, after looking through the entire list of skills, he was surprised to find that the skill human transformation, was missing. He was shocked by the appearance of the new skill Voice of God, not understanding its meaning, and immediately regretted not choosing the form of a small angelic dragon. He then wondered about the possibility of changing this skill, and whether it would require raising the level or fulfilling some other condition. He noticed that now that he thought about it, the god's voice was not interfering like before, and wondered if it meant it was indifferent to his choice of the plague dragon child, or if the god's voice was truly evil, it might have used the human transformation as bait. He then studied the details necessary for a successful evolution and learned something important, expressing hope that his titles such as Path of Evil or Tiny Hero would have an effect on his next transformation. He exclaimed again about the next time, immediately correcting himself that it sounded like he would become an evil dragon. He decided that he needed to level up anyway, since his stats had dropped and he was back at level 1. He also noticed while studying the details of his skills that 2 of them affected experience gain. Son of the Dragon King reduced the amount of experience points needed and made it easier to gain resistances, while Walking Egg doubled the experience gained. As he moved forward rapidly, he thought warily about the disastrous consequences of facing a powerful monster in his current state. But suddenly, he fell into a trap and realized that he was completely immobile. Right in front of him stood a terrifying monster called Red Talent, which had the titles of a level 4 Forest Killer and a level 3 Tenacity. Its normal skills included a level 3 Bite, a level 4 Spider Thread, a level 2 Paralyzing Tongue, and a level 2 Toxic Poison. In addition, it possessed the hidden skills of level 4 Stealth, a level 2 Poisonous Body, and a level 1 Generation. Feeling the sticky web bind him, the baby dragon realized that he had fallen into the trap of a monster that resembled the spiders he was familiar with. The huge red talon quickly turned and accurately shot a web from its abdomen at him, after which the baby dragon, expressing his disgust with a cry, declared that he would not allow himself to be eaten by this abomination, and attacked with baby dragon breath. Despite the attack, the red talon remained unharmed and immediately went on the offensive. The baby dragon was able to dodge, gaining a new skill, Resistance, and realized that their statistics were incomparable, which meant they needed to flee, which forced the red talon to rush in pursuit of the frightened dragon. Rolling endlessly, he looked back and saw only the red talon approaching rapidly and continued to roll desperately to escape, gaining a new title of Cowardly Chicken and increasing the level of the rolling skill. While shouting at the monster not to come closer and trying to convince himself that he was not afraid, he suddenly noticed a cliff right in front of him. He realized that changing direction would allow the monster to catch up with him, while jumping over the cliff would give him a chance to escape. Tormented by doubts about the success of the jump and the consequences of failure, he gathered all his determination and chose the right moment and decided to jump. Having spread his wings, he successfully flew over the cliff and, turning to the red talon, defiantly asked if he had seen it. However, the red talon, quickly weaving webs one after another, also managed to overcome the cliff, while the young dragon watched in surprise, not understanding how this was possible for a spider. As he continued to flee from the monster chasing him, he wondered why this was happening, why there were so many dangerous creatures in the forest, and whether he had become the only target for hunting, bitterly realizing that, even after evolution, his situation had not improved. Then an idea came to him, and he went in search of the first dark worm he came across to increase his stats. By destroying the worm, he gained 13 experience points from the Walking Egg skill and raised his Calamity title to level 2. By continuing to destroy the worms one by one, he would gain 1 experience point, which would be doubled by his skill. The young dragon was able to increase his stats to that of a red talent. He knew that it was not enough, but further hunting could lead to a clash with an even more dangerous opponent, which would be disastrous. But he could still burn the web and, having resistance to poison, try to fight back. But the red talent suddenly interrupted his thoughts with an attack of toxic poison. The toxic poison attack was a poisonous fog that completely deprived the young dragon of visibility and the ability to determine the enemy's location. However, noticing the enemy's motionless silhouette, he realized that the red talon was standing still. It suddenly occurred to him that the red talon was probably unaware of his resistance to the poison, and was waiting for it to weaken him, and he supposed that if he showed no reaction, it might alert his adversary. So he began to pretend to be suffering from the poison, while the spiders seemed to suspect nothing. Waiting for the right moment, the young dragon jumped high and, attacking him from behind, used a roll. After dealing a few roll attacks to the spider, he completed the attack and received the Dragon Tail skill and 104 experience points. He admired his new level of 14, but knew that he was too exhausted and had taken a lot of damage to win. He thought about his desire to become stronger, but noted that he was rushing too much, as all his efforts would be in vain if he died in the process, reminding himself to be careful, as there were still many dangers in the forest. Only after waking up, the dragon, yawning, came out of his night's resting place. Having had a good rest, the baby dragon had fully recovered and thought that it had been a long time since he had slept so soundly, even though he had found this cave by chance when he was leveling up. Looking at his sleeping place, he thought about how a bed was necessary for a good night's sleep and decided to make it his basic need. He knew he couldn't get real fabric, but he could get the skin of some animal to sleep on, and maybe carve some image into it, dreaming that if a person saw his sleeping place, they might think he was civilized, but in a pinch, he could just use the cave to sleep. He decided that today he would search for a good pelt while hunting small animals, but noticing some moving liquid in the middle of the forest, and wary that it might be a monster, he decided to use his condition check skill first. But his skill failed to work on this liquid, and the dragon's eyes only began to burn from trying to analyze it. Suddenly, the dark liquid began to grow and take shape, frightening the dragon. He rolled away from the mysterious slime at lightning speed, feeling as if his computer was getting infected with a virus and was very scared. He thought about how he won reflexively, but he could have memorized some of the gaps in the corrupted code text. And then there would have been no reason to flee. He justified his escape by citing the fright of his check status skill, not working on the slime, and assumed that without seeing the corrupted stats, he would have remained calm, and by raising his check status skill to level 5, he would have improved his ability to find information about items. He decided to try his status check skill again, and aimed it at the E-grade light mushroom, receiving information that it was a parasitic fungus that sucked nutrients from the host tree through its roots and branches, causing the host to wither. He realized that it was really useful, and he could now find poisonous mushrooms. And then he used his skill on the D-rare monster mushroom, which was considered a high-class delicacy due to its meat-like taste. With his skill, he also saw the rare red fruit Iparus of rarity B+, which is used to make an expensive spice, but because they are difficult to grow, there are very few of them left, and they may die out. Next, he saw a fruitful plant of rarity C+, learning that this unusual plant, which feeds on animals, stores any salt it cannot digest in its roots, enriching the soil. With great dislike and reluctance, he continued to feed on vegetation with his skill, because he realized that he did not have the luxury of being picky. He even found a mushroom that was so expensive that if it was successfully grown, it could even cause a reduction in the budget of the entire country. Finding another valuable mushroom, he grabbed it thinking that it could be his ticket out of trouble, because the hallucinogenic mushroom can lead to extreme euphoria and a sense of grandeur, and is also very toxic and harmful. Moreover, if eaten dry, even a small amount of it increases its effectiveness tenfold, but the dragon felt a rush of heat after eating the mushroom and disappointedly decided that this forest was really dangerous. He felt afraid of the danger of this forest and thought that he would hardly be alive if he didn't have the skill condition check. He decided to collect some edible mushrooms on the way home, but remembered that his main task was to collect materials for repairs, and found a discarded large ornament that someone from the village probably made. He also noticed a pot near the homemade decoration and thought that he could use it to store food since it was a clay pot. Thinking that he would definitely return it later, he decided to take it for himself, but thought about what to do with this useless bear ornament, at first deciding that it was so poorly made that it was better to leave it, but then changed his mind, thinking that if he fixed it up a little, it could look better. He thought more enthusiastically that this would help make the cave easily visible to those passing by, and that this was another step towards civilized life. He began to move, but as soon as he wanted to lift the pot, he received a strong blow to the face and looked at it in bewilderment. He tried to look again as he received another blow which threw him far away. The things turned out to be not simple, but alive. The pots turned out to be pot turtles, and the clay bear turned out to be a tall monster. He stood there dumbfounded, not understanding why these living creatures were imitating things, and wondered what he could do in a situation where the three of them had become his opponents, even though he was stronger than each of them individually. He also noticed that they were biting, but he did not see any teeth. Comparing these creatures to the small stone dragon, he noted that it was stronger. In addition, their strange cries irritated him, and he went on the offensive. He struck one clay jug after another, but a bear decided to attack from behind, and he dodged him. Screaming from the pain in his arms caused by hitting the tough shells of the turtles, the dragon realized with disappointment that his recovery magic had no effect on the enemy's stats. He was also depressed by the thought that fatigue could come before victory, and the unbearable pain in his arms could lead to serious consequences, while his breath attack would probably not harm them. Caught by the unexpected attack, he hit the turtles with his paws, pushing away from them. Noticing that even after restoration, cracks remained on the turtles' shells, he shouted that, since they were so strong, let them experience similar hardness, after which he grabbed one of them and attacked again. After activating gravity acceleration and reaching level 2 of the flight skill, he pushed 2 turtles together and even touched a bear, gaining 36 experience points and increasing his overall level to 23. After defeating the turtles and obtaining the shooting star skill, he turned his attention to the bear, but remembered its regeneration ability similar to that of the stone dragon, realizing that an incomplete attack would lead to a long and unfavorable battle. Suddenly, he felt a blow. The blow came from a turtle, and, amazed that it did not die, the dragon concluded that the experience gained was only related to beating one of them, realizing that the purpose of the blow was to slow down his reactions and immobilize him. While circling after the turtle's attack, the bear suddenly went into feeding mode, and instead of a belly, he had a forked mouth studded with huge fangs. To escape the bear's jaws, he threw one of the turtles straight into its gaping belly. However, the bear activated the transformation into a bear beetle, its body bristling with spikes and fangs, and it attacked, but the dragon's stiffness passed. Realizing that he had to act immediately, he decided to kill him with one blow, using the shooting star right on target. However, having flown higher than expected due to the increased level of the flight skill, he realized that an attack from such a height would not reach the target. His devastating attack tore the bear apart. After gaining 338 experience points, he had reached level 33 of the Child of the Dragon of Disaster status, and had mastered a new skill, Nutcracker, designed for aerial attacks. Although the skill's recoil was significant, its power also increased dramatically, making it potentially decisive, but only usable with an item that could be carried while flying. However, a pot turtle emerged from the shadows, startling the dragon with its gigantic size. He assumed that this was the result of the, quote, party summon skill, after which another, larger turtle appeared, and the dragon began to think about escaping, realizing that he could not defeat them. The dragon saw a lizard perched on top of the turtle's shell. He assumed that this creature could save him. Now that they were alone, the dragon thought that it was this black lizard who had saved him a second ago. The lizard suddenly bit him. He realized that his assumptions about it were wrong, and his poison resistance ability reached level 4. After winning the battle, he let his guard down. His opponent was a monster called a Baby Dragon of Disaster, level 33, maximum level is 40, with an attack of 138 units, magic of 129 units, mobility of 115 units, and rank D+. He was dismayed to learn that the lizard possessed similar nasty skills, as its poison easily ignored his third-tier poison resistance, which was an extremely dangerous feature. But suddenly, the lizard fled. He was puzzled and thought about the species, Benem Princess Lecerta, a cunning monster that first poisons its prey and then disappears. When the poison begins to work, weakening the victim, it returns to eat it. The dragon thought about finding a plant with an anti-venom effect. In addition, this lizard deliberately consumes potent poisons to generate even stronger poison inside itself, but at the same time has the ability to produce an antitoxin to its own poison. Therefore, if captured by a powerful enemy, it can use the antidote as a ransom for its life. The dragon assumed that the lizard was probably hiding nearby and waiting. His goal was to catch it and get the antidote. However, he doubted his ability to track her by scent or sound, since he had no tracking skills, and finding the enemy's lost trail seemed impossible. However, his long life was due to his ability to avoid danger and time, and he understood the psychology of those who prefer to flee. The dragon assumed that the lizard's tactics were hit and run, and realized that it took some cunning to understand the possibility of negotiation and exchange. He knew that the lizard would not show itself until the poison had taken effect, but at the same time he did not want to let his prey go. If the victim tried to escape, it would follow, and he ran, hoping that the lizard would follow his example, realizing that a mistake could cost him his life, and having run a considerable distance, he stopped and waited. As soon as the lizard appeared, he turned on the maximum rotation speed and rushed in pursuit. However, she also used the rotation ability, trying to break away. However, the lizard had high speed, and a straight pursuit would not bring success, despite the fact that its spin level was lower. In braking maneuvers, he was superior to her, and gravity also played in his favor, allowing him to control the pressure behind her and force her to turn onto an abandoned path, heading towards the very cliff he had jumped over earlier. The lizard, despite knowing that capture would be fatal for her, remains calm. She has noticed the effect of different ground on speed and carefully chooses the surface for her role, using the same spin as him. Despite their differences, he felt sympathy for her and planned to end things peacefully. Having reached the 5th level of rotation, the dragon hoped that its superior speed would allow it to grab the lizard before the edge of the cliff. However, it suddenly felt a blow. The dragon guessed that the stone that hit him was probably fired by a clay cannon. The lizard used another ability while spinning. Assessing his situation, the dragon realized that he had lost most of the feeling in his left arm from the bite, despite his efforts to bandage it. He considered going to the village to ask for help and making an antidote, but decided against it, deciding that his current menacing appearance would likely provoke an attack, so he focused on finding a healing plant. The dragon seriously considered cutting off his own arm to prevent the poison from spreading throughout his body, believing that the limb would regenerate after evolution or shapeshifting. But first he needed to stop the bleeding, which could be fatal. Growing increasingly worried, he realized that he had almost cornered the lizard to the edge of the cliff, so he decided not to pursue it until the very end, but to be prepared for the consequences when he caught up with it. At that moment, when the dragon was already at arm's length from the lizard, she made another attempt to attack him with a stone, using a clay cannon. As he dodged the rocks, he worried about how many lives he had left after so many fights. Noticing that the lizard had lost its composure and was shooting rocks in all directions, he assumed that the end was near. He thought about how he had been underestimating the black lizard from the start, and how he had a strange attraction to her, which had allowed her to outwit him. Perhaps he subconsciously wanted some friendly company, stopping himself in his stupid thoughts. He noticed that he had been distracted, and that even if he was fighting one battle after another, he had to focus on the battle, because he was almost at the edge and he needed to hold on a little longer. The dragon knew that despite its speed, the black lizard relied solely on physical strength to jump, so it would inevitably turn, slow down, and use the clay cannon again to gain a few seconds. However, he himself was only guessing whether his rotation would be able to overcome this obstacle, or whether the clay cannon would stop him. He noticed that the lizard was not slowing down, and was probably not aware of the proximity of the cliff. Worried that the lizard's fall would ruin his chance to get the antidote, he regretted not pursuing it along a path with a better view, but he knew he had no alternative. However, the lizard suddenly threw itself into the abyss, causing the dragon to be astonished. However, with a lightning-fast leap, he prevented the black lizard from falling into the abyss. Having saved the lizard, he pushed it away, feeling extremely exhausted, and noticed that the bandage on his hand had come undone. He tried to mobilize the last reserves of strength to grab it, despite his immobility. However, the lizard remained where it was, and the dragon assumed that it understood his extreme exhaustion and had ceased to fear him. Using the fireball ability, the black lizard transformed into a charming young girl. After confirming her ability to resist the F-rank dark worms, she felt relieved. Remembering what her friend had said about the monster ranking system that determined the level of danger, she realized that the F-rank dark worms were quite harmless and could be defeated even by ordinary people. A friend told me that even ordinary people can handle F-rank monsters, and E-rank monsters are within the power of average adventurers. Defeating D-rank and D-plus rank monsters requires the cooperation of several ordinary adventurers or the efforts of one experienced adventurer, while C-rank monsters can only be defeated by a well-coordinated group of experienced adventurers. Mentally turning to Dave's, she remembered that he could handle an E-rank monster, but even with that power, he would be weaker than a stone dragon. She asked the locals if they had seen him, and they answered in the affirmative, telling how he was fishing on a lake near the city and was in the thickets at the edge of the forest, staring at them, motionless, with a creepy expression on his face and an unusual skin color, and when they tried to call him, he disappeared into the forest thicket. But the fisherman's story was interrupted by another man. Just as she was about to ask what exactly they meant, the other man asked her grandfather to stop scaring her. As they argued about the veracity of the story, one of the men told her that after the battle with the stone dragon, he had no chance of surviving, and added that there was no evidence of ghosts, after which he apologized to her, although she tried to assure him that an apology was unnecessary. As she thought about her rescue, she wondered why he hadn't returned to the village, and then it occurred to her that without a healer, they might both die. His words had forced her to join them, and if she had been firm and stopped them, none of this would have happened. The village wouldn't send a search party to such a dangerous place without a good reason. They were skeptical of her words from the start, but once she mentioned the dragon that saved her, they stopped believing her, and she decided to go looking for him on her own. As she moved deeper into the forest, she tried to reassure herself that everything would be fine, and that she would be unlikely to encounter dangerous monsters if she did not go too far. Meanwhile, the dragon, coming to his senses and weakly moving his hand, was amazed that he was still alive. When he woke up, he noticed that the lizard was sleeping soundly next to him. The dragon cub looked around his cave with pride, happy that he had finally managed to decorate it. Now in his cave, one could see a drawing skillfully carved directly into the stone wall, kitchen utensils carefully arranged for storing food, salt obtained from the roots of carnivorous plants, and dried pepper prepared as a fragrant seasoning. There was also a bowl of poison collected from poisonous plants, a jug for storing water, clay shards left over from a destroyed clay bear, a soft fur rug comfortably placed on the floor, ceramic statues installed on either side of the entrance, a specially constructed narrow passage to serve as protection from large monsters, and a floor prudently covered with a layer of soil to remain dry during the rains. He thought that he should express his gratitude to the clay bear, considering that it was an incredibly rare, magical creature. After all, the clay bear was a magical beast created through alchemy, whose clay retained its magical properties even after death, making it an excellent material for creating magical items. So he collected the clay fragments and mixed them with water, tried to fire them, and although he had to work hard, especially with his current paws, he managed. Looking at the result with pride, he thought that now no one would consider him an uncivilized dragon, and he could well consider himself an excellent potter. He assumed that the black lizard had given him the antidote while he was unconscious. When he woke up, he was very surprised to see her there, but despite the reason, she seemed to like him, as she followed him relentlessly. As she steadily climbed higher, he thought humorously about yesterday's hostility and today's friendship, noticing the lack of hostility on her part, as he had saved her when she fell off the cliff, which apparently made him her savior. But after a while he became embarrassed, and, embarrassed, pushed away the lizard that was licking him, asking her to stop. Afterwards, he still allowed her to do it, fearing that she might kill him at night. After finishing the repairs in his den, he decided to look for food. Noticing the interested look of the black lizard, he assumed that it wanted to join in. He remembered how he wanted to dry meat and hung it outside to dry. But the monkey spirits of the shoujo stole it, and he muttered indignantly that he would never forgive them for this. He reminded himself that he had lost track of time and, in his busy schedule, had completely forgotten about his priorities, such as surviving, becoming stronger, and improving his standard of living. He had spent enough time there and knew that he could no longer remain at the same level. With lightning speed, Mahar's pack of wolves rushed through the depths of the forest, over the rising hills. Their normal skills included a powerful level 27 bite, sharp level 21 vision, and dangerous level 21 fire fangs, and their special abilities included level 21 magic transmission and level 21 magic reception. The small black lizard that followed the dragon suddenly used its clay cannon skill on Mahar's pack of wolves. The mud projectile shot towards the wolves, catching them off guard. And while the wolves, taken by surprise, tried to dodge the attacks of the small black lizard, the baby dragon, taking advantage of the enemy's confusion, delivered its critical blow. The dragon's blow hit the target. He had gained 61 experience points, and looking at the lizard, he felt that it was great to fight shoulder to shoulder with his partner. He guessed that judging by how many experience points he had gained, they were awarded according to the effort expended, and now he had gained less experience points, but he was glad that he did not have to risk his life anymore. He noticed the intelligence of the lizard, who, despite the lack of communication, intuitively helped him in the battle, and seemed to be more aware of the situation. He realized that in this case, she would be very useful not only in hunting but also in other matters. From then on, she helped him bring down fruits from the trees while he was collecting them, slept with him, helped with cooking and hunting. After a while, he felt that he had already become accustomed to the constant presence of the small black lizard, and thinking about it, he realized that he had arranged the cave, expecting guests. But in the end, an unexpected companion had arrived to him, who, however, did not cause him any inconvenience. As he fell asleep, he thought that such a life was not so bad, and then, during another walk through the forest with a lizard, she called him, pointing at something, and he, assuming that she had found something edible, followed her, but what he saw shocked him. She greedily pointed at the huge mushroom, which was several times bigger than her, and was a candid Hawabius rare B+, a giant mushroom that stank terribly of rotten meat, and had an incredibly strong poison, the smell of which was already very repulsive, which is why no creature wanted to eat it. He realized that the black lizard liked to eat poisonous food, although even the smell of this mushroom was extremely unpleasant to him. But just as the lizard was about to bite into the poisonous mushroom, the dragon used the Dragon Child's Breath skill, incinerating it, and, apologizing, explained that after that she would lick his face, and the whole cave would stink, because poison is one thing, and stench is another, and he would collect other poisonous plants for them. But, noticing the alarmed look of the lizard, he turned around and screamed in fear from the terrible monster that suddenly appeared behind him. His heart began to beat wildly from fear. Right in front of them stood a two-headed monster of rank D+. The dragon knew at first glance that this was a sign of trouble, and if he had been alone, he would have already disappeared. But there was a lizard next to him. It was a level 39 enraged, two-headed monster that posed a serious threat. Its stats included attack of 135, defense of 94, magic of 135, and agility of 138, and the monster's special skills included scent of level 4, acidic saliva of level 5, agility of level 4, tidal roll division of level 5, gravity control of level 3, stubbornness of level 5, infighter of level 3, and sequence of level 2. The lizard and the dragon both stared at their opponent, their gazes full of determination. Analyzing the situation, he realized that an attempt to escape by rolling was possible, but the hunting skills of the two-headed monster significantly reduced their chances, and in the worst case, it would pursue them to the shelter and kill them as soon as they fell asleep. Therefore, a direct conflict seemed inevitable. But on the other hand, he had no resistance to poisons, and working together with the black lizard, they could inflict a strong dose of poison on him and finish him off in one blow. However, the monster's regeneration meant that he had to become bait, and although he was scared, he decided to give this chance to the black lizard. After dodging the monster's attack, he confirmed that his 138-point agility was not just a show, and he needed to draw its attention to himself instead of the black lizard. He used his Child Dragon's Breath ability on it. But one of the heads of the two-headed monster counterattacked with a fire attack, catching the dragon off guard, and he, rolling from the heat, screamed in pain, shocked that his own fire gave way to the enemy's fire, although this was obvious. The ground around the monster began to darken, and gravity began to darken, and he felt his body become heavy, and he believed that it created a gravity field with magic. Resigned to the fact that he was too strong, he prepared to become a dead man. He mentally addressed the lizard that it could act freely since he was concentrating on him, and hoped that the lizard would reach him with poison fangs from the top of his head. But the lizard started with a clay cannon attack, and it was useless against the monster. He dealt a brutal blow to the small black lizard, which flew far away and hit a tree with force. The dragon watched this in horror, but the dragon managed to catch the lizard, saving it from falling, and realized that it would no longer be able to strike, so they needed to try to get the monster with poisonous fangs while its movements were slow. Otherwise, if it managed to counterattack, they would be finished. However, he didn't see any other options, because the monster's skills were balanced, and even when one had attacked, the other would become even more cautious, making a simple luring attack meaningless. Although he noticed after observing the monster's skills and attacks that if his guess was correct, He would only be able to immobilize it once, but the black lizard's energy was almost at zero. Noticing its expectant gaze, he realized that it was completely relying on him and returned to the battle. He noticed how the monster's title Roll Division worked, and perhaps the division was like this: one head for physical attacks and the other for magic. He also noticed that everything he saw was related to the left head, and the second head controls magic, and the right one is currently monitoring the movements of the black lizard, and in other words, he needs to hit the one that is currently looking at him with a close attack using brute force. He tried to block the attack with his right hand, but the monster began to tear at his limb, and at that moment the lizard intervened in the battle. Its attack was unexpected. They dealt a double blow to the monster, attacking it from two different sides at the same time. Their actions were coordinated. Having finally caught the monster, they decided to use the remaining time to roll until the poison began to work, because it had no resistance to poisons, and the head that was bitten was the one he would not be able to get rid of. Their plan had to work quickly. Despite its severed and bleeding head, the monster stood firm, and the dragon noted that it had managed to shake off the poison and had an astonishingly quick mind, so even if its own evolution had resulted in two heads, it would never have been able to inflict such a thing on itself. It was amazed at the enemy's tenacity. He assumed that he knew it was irreversible from the start, but didn't understand how he couldn't use magic anymore, and should have just died a normal death from blood loss. But, worried, he hoped that he wasn't going to return to his previous form, and he noticed the monster counterattacking, and shouted at the lizard to be careful. Using a roll, he rushed forward, however, even being wounded and decapitated. The monster did not stop pursuing the black lizard. His tenacity was incredible. A young girl was wandering in the deep forest, lost in her thoughts, until suddenly an unfamiliar male voice called out to her, asking if it was her. The girl stopped, looking around for the speaker. Having inquired about the purpose of her solitary stay in the forest, he asked with surprise whether she had decided on this dangerous journey herself. Embarrassed, the girl began to deny it, explaining that she was collecting herbs at the request of the healer. He asked again in surprise, repeating her words about collecting herbs, but the girl replied that she still had a lot to do and needed to go, after which she quickly left. Her haste seemed strange to him. The man told the healer about what he had seen and the girl's words, but she, indignant, denied it, and said that she had not given her any instructions and that she had warned her to stay away from the forest. He suggested that perhaps she felt responsible for what had happened then, and she was sometimes so stubborn, and, it seemed, still worried about them. The man added that his real purpose was to report the growing concerns of the villagers about the appearance of someone suspicious in the area, and these stories can no longer be attributed to the imagination of an old man. He believes that it could be some kind of monster that looks like a man, and this concern is not unfounded, given the strange occurrences, including the recent flight of a huge dragon-like creature over the village towards the forest. He added that a certain traveler who had recently appeared in the village was causing him concern, although he had been polite enough and he could not pinpoint the cause of his discomfort. The healer asked if he was referring to the one who had called himself a hero. He agreed, calling the traveler very suspicious, and mentioning the parts of a mountain dragon found on him, suggesting that it might have killed him along the way, and also noting too many unexplained details, which worried him greatly. She asked if it was somehow connected and added that she had a bad feeling about this. She said that maybe they should send someone to find out what was going on and asked that they might get hurt, and as the village leader, she couldn't take that risk. He said that maybe they should find adventurers from outside the village, and the Adventurers Guild wasn't such a bad option, and they could assign them to deal with these cases. She agreed with him and said that she believed that the adventurers from the guild had a strong sense of justice and were quite reliable, and that it was not a bad idea. She would send them a letter with the assignment without delay. The man said that now the whole village could breathe a sigh of relief. With hope in her eyes, she looked thoughtfully out the window, wishing that her friend would feel relief. Driven by terror, the lizard and the baby dragon rushed forward with all possible agility, escaping from the monster. The dragon understood that the two-headed monster was much more experienced and used unusual techniques, and the head chasing the lizard was not inferior to it in rotation speed, and realized that the monster was trying to buy time, so it needed to get to this head as quickly as possible. Thinking logically, he believed that he shouldn't fight him, and that would put him in a losing situation, and he should just wait for his attack, and he himself would die from blood loss sooner or later. But while he waits, it might be too late to save the black lizard. and he can't do anything. Just like the black lizard can only run away from his stupid head. But he couldn't just stand there while he was breathing the same air as the black lizard. He shouted that inaction was not the answer and began to furiously attack the monster again and again. His determination was unwavering. Counting on the death of one head being fatal to the other, he lost sight of the monster. But soon he discovered traces of blood and hoped with horror that it was the blood of an enemy and not the only friend he had found in this world. In a desperate prayer, he asked that the blood belonged to someone other than a lizard, and was ready to sacrifice his human form to save it. But seeing the monster's head only confirmed his fears, and he anxiously continued to search for the black lizard. Suddenly, a weakened black lizard crawled out from under the bushes, and when he saw it, he felt a wild joy for his friend, and joyfully exclaimed that it was alive. His relief knew no bounds. He noticed that her life had dropped to a critical 18%, and that she was battered. The lizard happily continued to lick him. He wrapped it in the rare F-rank kunanugi grass, which had weak hemostatic properties, although many people mistakenly believed that it could cure any illness. And understanding their lack of recovery magic, he knew that it was still better than nothing. In addition, his skill Calm Mind reached level 5, and he received an additional 234 experience. He noticed that the experience message had only appeared recently, which could mean the survivability of the wounded monster, but he still sighed with relief, considering the battle over and planning to return to the cave to rest, when he suddenly received a new skill, Human Form, and froze in shock. He tried to calm down excitedly, completely not understanding why this happened right now. Somewhere in the dense forest, a fierce battle was raging with a huge spider-like monster. After delivering a powerful blow with her sword, she sighed with relief, noting that the spider was constantly appearing out of nowhere, and this battle could have ended badly, but suddenly someone's voice called out to her from afar. The girl, pressed against the wall, begged him to hurry up and pull her out, but the swordswoman only jokingly noted her effective pose, to which she indignantly replied that the situation was terrible, because she had to be bait. Then she, freeing her, apologized and thanked her for helping her make the task easier, and it was a very unpleasant monster, and he could still cause them trouble. She said indignantly that this was too much and that she thought that she had overestimated her strength by coming into this forest alone, and that they should have gathered the whole team before coming into the forest. She also said that she was right, and since they went past the cliff and went deeper, it felt like the monsters were getting stronger. She believed that the most dangerous creature in this forest was the mountain dragon, and so the closer they got to its domain, the stronger the monsters became. Therefore, they needed to have enough strength or speed to be able to escape from it. She added that they should be able to handle it, because it was only 2 people. But she received a response that they could try to look for them in safer areas, such as the edge of the forest. The swordswoman agreed, saying that they probably couldn't get that far, but she only brought them there because her curiosity was killing her, and that the eastern part of the forest was unexplored territory, and they would be the first to learn something really interesting. But the monsters were getting really strong, and so they would have to go back for now. The partner said that the request to find a person who should already be dead sounded creepy, and if it turned out to be undead or something, she would not help and would just run away. To which she received a response that there was no need to worry, because the eyewitness accounts were too vague, and they must have simply confused someone with him. The swordswoman added that they were only asked to check their hearing, and asked if she wanted the villagers to find peace of mind, to which she timidly agreed. They discovered a cave and noticed strange statues standing right at the entrance. Their appearance puzzled them. One of the statues depicted a dancing figure, which they found quite interesting, and the other resembled a dragon. Both were made of very hard stone, supposedly filled with magic, and possibly ancient. The swordswoman asked her partner if she thought this place was a temple to the dragon god, and if she had heard of the Litvats tribe. She asked her if she meant the forest tribe that kidnapped and hunted people. But she corrected herself, and said that she was sure that this tribe lived in another, more northern forest area. The swordswoman suggested that perhaps this was left over from the people who used to live there. And in any case, they should definitely check the cave. As they moved deeper into the cave, they studied everything they saw with curiosity. Each new turn aroused their interest. While exploring the cave, the companion curiously asked what kind of place it was and why it seemed inhabited, and was told that it was probably an ancient shrine. Finding many jars of pepper and being amazed by the quantity, they suggested that it might be related to illegal activity and a hiding place for loot, and the companion mentioned recent rumors of attacks on trade caravans. As soon as her partner reached out for a handful of the precious red pepper, the swordswoman stopped her, telling her not to interfere, and added that they could not linger here, since the bandits or those who settled here had chosen a rather dangerous place, being confident in their strength, and a clash with them could end in defeat. Before her partner could finish her sentence about bringing reinforcements, she bumped nose first into the swordswoman who had stopped abruptly and said that she heard someone growling outside. Suddenly, a strange monster appeared before them. Its appearance was completely unfamiliar to them. They realized that it was not bandits, but some kind of humanoid monster that looked terrifying, and they had never seen such a creature before. The partner screamed that he looked super strong, to which the swordswoman added that he was blocking the exit. When the monster raised its hand, they mistook it for an attack, and, following their strategy, immediately went on the offensive. They acted in unison. As soon as the monster's attention switched to her companion, the swordswoman gave the command to attack. The swordswoman quickly thrust her sword into the monster, and the powerful blow sent it flying far away from the entrance to the cave. The swordswoman said that this was their chance, and they should run without letting down their guard, since they didn't know anything about this monster. And her partner asked if she thought the monster might have eaten the bandits, to which she agreed, adding that they weren't strong enough to fight, but would return with reinforcements. The dragon and the lizard noticed the humans at the entrance to the cave, their first guests since settling in, and he tried to shout at them that they couldn't enter until he was there, because that was the whole point, otherwise they would take him for a monster. He asked the lizard to wait while he tried to portray a friendly monster, and thought about using the human form skill, although he didn't know what it would look like, assuming that it was no worse than the Dragon of Calamity in any case. And realizing the inappropriateness of using this skill right after abandoning it, he still decided to at least take a look at this form, but he learned that the human form skill allows one to take on a human form, but it halves energy, attack, and defense, and also requires constant consumption of mana, and he figured that he could hold out for a maximum of 2 minutes, spending 1 mana point per second. He then explained that he meant that he didn't need the human form as a permanent state, but thought that now was the best time to use it, and he would only try it once so as not to scare people, and he didn't intend to transform permanently, go to their village, and abandon the lizard, but only wanted to try out a new skill. But then he pulled himself back, wondering why he was making excuses, since there was nothing special about it. The dragon activated the skill Human Form. He fell to his knees, feeling like he was about to die, as if he had been ground into powder and then molded into a human form, and thinking that he looked like a very muscular man, better than the Dragon of Disaster, he stroked the lizard, asking it to wait, but was suddenly attacked from his own cave. Weakened and falling to the ground in front of the lizard, he bitterly said that it was useless, and wondered about the cruelty of humans. The next day, looking at his reflection in the water in human form, he finally understood the reason for their reaction. He was told that the black dragon and his little companion had made their home in his domain, and the dragon and the wolves should not have found any of the monsters, and they should not have been there. He thought that they would move quickly, and he was patient, but he could no longer ignore them, and all who dared to encroach on his territory would have no mercy, the monster thought. It was an imposing, thickly furred, giant forest monster. The angry dragon shouted at the Shujo monkeys, accusing them of regularly stealing his dried meat. The dragon shouted at the impudent monkeys, assuring them that he would catch them. However, despite his superior strength, their agility and ability to move in different directions constantly helped them to escape. After eating the meat, the monkeys let out deafening cries of pain. However, the dragon grinned and said that he and the black lizard had poisoned the meat in revenge, and ordered them to enjoy the consequences of their greed. The enraged monkeys rushed at the dragon, but he successfully repelled their attacks. He said that their teamwork had failed, and they all couldn't stand up to them. They looked cute compared to that two-headed monster. He offered to let them see how they punished him, and said that he could forgive them for just taking a few pieces of a good ball, but he didn't want to steal everything every time. The dragon announced that it was time to teach them a lesson, and physical punishment was inevitable. At that moment, one of the monkeys whistled shrilly, causing the dragon to bewilder. Sensing trouble, the dragon tried to warn the black lizard with a cry, but was too late. The monster's giant hand suddenly appeared and caught up with her. In front of him stood a huge level 27 Shujo monkey. His attack was 123 units, defense was 82 units, magic was 110 units, and agility was 122 units. His rank was D. He had the usual skills: level 4 bite, level 4 claw, level 2 imitation, level 4 stone throwing, level 4 great recovery, level 3 monkey whistle, level 1 clay wall, level 2 agility, level 4 voice of reason, level 1 strength. And also the titles: level 2 forest trickster, level 2 coordinator, level 5 pack leader, level 3 saboteur. The dragon cried out in surprise that the monkey leader had appeared. His voice was full of surprise. Alarmed, he was worried about the little lizard that was being held hostage. He grabbed one of the monkeys and demanded that it not move. He hoped that the leader cared about his subordinates. He gritted his teeth in displeasure, and the dragon thought that it worked. He clearly doubted, which meant that he cared, even though the dragon felt like a bastard. He thought he had gotten out of a hopeless situation, but not understanding what to do next, he was sweating from the tension and decided that he needed more information to upset the balance of power, and it was time to use the status check magic. He saw that before him stood a large shoujo, the form he attains when he becomes the leader of a pack by killing the previous leader, and he has an instinct for expanding the pack by fighting one-on-one with other leaders, or subduing that pack in territorial disputes. And he has a set of support spells to help his group. But suddenly, the voice of the big shoujo sounded in the dragon's head, saying that as soon as he saw that he was at a disadvantage, he decided to resort to taking hostages without even thinking. The dragon was shocked that his voice was right in his head, but different from the voice of God, and that it was like telepathy as soon as he shouted again in his dragon's head that he was a disgrace to all men. He realized that the big shoujo not only stopped doubting, but also became even more angry, and did not think that he could be so brave. But he told the dragon that he left him no choice, and dangerous guys like him must be crushed, and they may suffer losses, but he must eliminate him here and now. He asked the leader to wait and said that if he would let him and the black lizard go and promise not to bother them again, they would neutralize the poison, pointing to the other monkeys. He added that they had poisoned them too, and that without the black lizard to neutralize the poison, he would surely die. But he refused and said that his offer was a mockery, since there was no guarantee that someone like him would keep his promise, and he had no choice but to strike him now while he had the advantage, no matter what it cost him. The dragon thought anxiously about how he should proceed. He tried to find something else he could say to use against him, and said that he challenged him to a duel. He continued that if he won, he would take his territory and his pack, although he himself did not understand what he was saying. But the leader monkey replied that the duel was sacred to the shoujo, and did he know what he was saying? In reality, the dragon said this out of desperation, but received a surprisingly strong reaction. He continued that they should fight one-on-one, and if he agreed, they would immediately neutralize the poison, and his companion would also leave, and then he would have a chance to defeat him. The dragon noticed that the leader of the shoujo was thinking. He started teasing him about how he felt insecure one-on-one, because he had a bunch of goodies he could use if he wanted, and could refuse to fight and not worry, to which the leader, having pecked, said that he accepted his challenge, and added that from the very beginning he had no intention of refusing, because if the leader of the pack was challenged, it was unforgivable for him to refuse the duel, even though this was the first time a representative of another species had challenged him. Having handed the lizard to his relative, he menacingly slapped his hand on the ground. Under the blows of the shoujo bully, huge clay walls appeared from underground, forming a semblance of a ring, under the cries of the inspired monkeys. Their cries of support filled the air. He threatened the dragon so that it wouldn't even think about running away. The dragon realized that he had gone so far that he had used up most of his mana. The shoujo brute told him to neutralize the poison. But the dragon thought that this had turned the tide in his favor, and thought that maybe he could win in a one-on-one duel. And just as the monkey asked if it was time to release the black lizard, the big guy refused and said that he doubted that someone of another species would follow the rules of another species, so after the battle was over, they would keep it for themselves. The brute began to restore his health with the skill Great Recovery, to fight to the bitter end. The duel between the giant shoujo and the child dragon of calamity began. He increased his state of acceleration and strength with the magic Self-Establishing Magic, and dealt the dragon multiple powerful blows. Each blow shook the air. The dragon's health indicators dropped less and less with each attack he took. And just as he decided that he needed to increase the distance, the dragon dealt another crushing blow, throwing him far away. But suddenly he felt that he couldn't even move a finger, and he couldn't do anything about it while his stats were raised. But he saw him suddenly moving forward to attack again, and he activated the skill Double Spin. Using his spinning skill, he ran away from the monkey leader Shuojo again and again from side to side. His movements were swift and unpredictable, but the dragon noticed that even with the spinning skill, the big monkey was not far behind him, and in any case, he could just continue to keep him at a distance until his enhancements wore off. But the big shoujo was getting angrier, and turning to the dragon, he asked, how dare he, having accepted the challenge, continue to run away shamelessly, and whether dragons had any sense of pride. But the dragon only replied that a battle of endurance was still a battle, and a great one at that, and he cast his gaze upon the lizard. His eyes expressed concern. Worried about the black lizard, he thought that maybe he shouldn't make him even angrier. But if he lost, the black lizard would still be killed and not accepted into their pack. And because the black lizard was in danger and staring at him, he felt so shameless. He was determined to do everything he could to win, because he had no other choice. But the giant shoujo indignantly asked him what he was trying to achieve, and the only thing he did was run away and turn the duel into a mockery. He continued that the dragon was only insulting the duel, and that was unforgivable. The dragon noticed that he was overcome with rage and could not remain calm. He had a chance to maneuver. He used his dragon tail and critical strike abilities one after another, over and over again. Each strike was aimed precisely at the target. Something inside the giant shoujo cracked, and the dragon realized that he had not strengthened his defense, and if he hit him on the head, he might be able to finish him off. And just as he was about to strike, until his strengthening magic ran out, he used the skill Clay Wall and reflected it. He saw that he had to do it because it was a frontal attack, but he used his mana on the Clay Wall so he would no longer have mana to restore health and restore stamina, and so he would win with a huge difference in strength. But the giant shoujo suddenly appeared from behind and, apologizing for taking it too lightly, began to spin him in a whirlwind, not allowing him to move. The dragon was caught off guard. Jumping from side to side, he declared that this was the last fight for the giant shoujo, and the ones who would win would be them. The dragon didn't expect him to spend his mana on increasing agility instead of restoring health. This came as a surprise to him. Leaning against the wall, he was confused as to why the giant shoujo had suddenly increased its speed and was wondering how he should proceed, but suddenly it dawned on him that his opponent had realized that his attacks against the wall were predictable, and if he knew the direction of his attack but did not use all his power, he would leave him with a weak spot for a counterattack, using which he could win. But the dragon let out a cry of despair due to the constant feeling of near failure. The giant shoujo dealt a powerful blow to the dragon. He struck him again and again. The giant shoujo's fury did not subside, but just as the dragon had planned, he delivered his hidden finishing blow, zeroing out the giant shoujo's health, and increased the title Fighter to level 4. And the skill Dragon Strike to level 3. And just as he was about to turn to the monkeys to keep their promise, he turned back, noticing their worried look. Having lost his guard and thinking he had won, the dragon did not expect to be hit by the huge shoujo, and fell to the ground along with his exhausted opponent. Dust rose up around them. The monkeys were dumbfounded in bewilderment, while he sighed greedily, barely getting out from under the body of the giant shoujo. Cautiously, he tried to figure out if he had won. A window popped up in front of everyone, telling them that the dragon had received a new title, Leader of the Pack. When he woke up and discovered that he had become the leader of all the monkeys, he had already embarked on the harsh path of the monkeys. The dragon buried the big shoujo, because even though he was his enemy, he was the only one he could talk to in this world. And standing in front of his grave, he thought about what would have happened if they had met under different circumstances, and whether they would have been able to talk normally, while realizing that nothing could be changed. But thanks to this mortal battle, he was able to rise to level 99, and will soon be able to achieve a new evolution, leaving behind the calamity of the Dragon Child evolution. After all, he chose it impulsively, and the human form turned out to be a shitty skill and a complete disappointment. Ever since he became the leader of the pack, the shoujo monkeys have recognized him as their boss, but it turned out to be terribly crowded among the monkeys. All the monkeys came to the dragon's cave, and he couldn't believe that they had actually moved in and were going to live there. To the lizard's indignant sighs, he replied that he knew it was now crowded and noisy there, and his food supplies weren't nearly enough, and he also wanted them to leave. But the monkeys brought a mountain of fruits and plants to the dragon, and he, praising them for their excellent work, allowed them to take the dried meat. The lizard was shocked by such a generous gesture. Watching the happy monkeys closely, he noticed that the shoujo's hands were remarkably similar to those of humans, and if he had tools, he could teach them. However, he wondered if they were capable of cooking or pottery, since he would gladly leave all the responsibilities to them, devoting his time to rest. Having called all the monkeys together, he announced his new plan. However, the lizard also crawled up, but the dragon apologized and said that now only shoujo were needed, since the black lizard's paws would not work. The lizard froze in confusion, shocked by his words. The dragon began to explain and demonstrate the process of drying meat, urging the monkeys to watch carefully and remember. At the same time, he taught another group of monkeys how to make clay pots from the remaining magical clay. At this time, the lizard made squeaking sounds, trying to attract his attention, but the dragon apologized, citing his extreme busyness. While the saddened lizard stood there in bewilderment, the observers hidden in the bushes were talking in amazement about how the union of a plague dragon child and a shoujo was a great rarity, and they noted the striking resemblance of the shoujo to humans. The observer turned out to be the missing Daves. Watching in amazement through the third eye located on his forehead, he noticed the sudden defeat of the large shoujo. Doubting that this weak-willed dragon posed a serious threat, he decided to distract it for a while, so that his plan would not fail, since Operation Daveskun Destroys Home Village had already begun. The village head replied that she had not seen her today. The man, apologizing for disturbing her, wanted to leave, but she stopped him and asked him what had happened. He asked her if she remembered the twins from the neighboring village who had gone missing, and continued that someone had made a noise, saying that they had seen a brother and sister not far from the village. Confused, she replied that it was impossible, since the twins had disappeared many years ago. To this, the man said that the situation was very strange, and he was afraid of her reaction if she found out about it. The village chief noted that first there were rumors about Dawes missing, and now about the twins, and something had to be done about it. She asked him about the adventurers they had asked for help, and the man replied that they had gone on a long expedition and would not return until the day after tomorrow. Suddenly, a deafening sound came from the forest, causing flocks of birds to take flight. The village chief asked him to look for her friend in the forest while she looked in the village, but he asked her to leave the search in the forest to him, because in their time the old laws did not have as much power as before, and if the village chief broke them, she would thereby set a bad example for the others, and therefore she should not go. She was about to object, but he assured her that there was no need to worry, because he knew his limits and would not take any risks, asking him to search her in the village, to which she sheepishly agreed. But when she left, she warned him to take the weapon and healing herbs from her just in case, and to make sure that he did not go beyond the guardstone, because her friend would not go beyond the guardstone, to which he replied that he understood. But as she stopped, she felt that she had a bad feeling, and she hoped that her anxiety was in vain. Having already made a couple of clay pots with monkeys, he praised them for their intelligence and ordered them to continue improving. But looking around, he wondered where the black lizard had disappeared to. He went to look for the lizard, calling her name, and assumed that she might be offended because he had been working with the shoujo all day. After all, her first encounter with the shoujo monkeys was extremely unpleasant. They took her prisoner, and although he hoped for their peaceful coexistence, that was still a long way off. Now his home was increasingly filled with monsters, and his hope of moving to a human settlement had collapsed, although he understood that this road had been closed back when his human form skill had proven useless. He wondered if he could learn telepathy, like the big shoujo, and if he had telepathy, he could get along well with humans and monsters. He wondered if he had such a branch, if it would give him telepathy, and he knew he had to think carefully about his choice. Suddenly he found a black lizard staring at its reflection on the surface of the water. He told her that he was scared when she disappeared so suddenly, and he was almost done teaching the shoujo monkeys all the basics, so he wouldn't ignore her anymore. But she turned away, still feeling offended. Then the dragon suggested finding some poisonous mushrooms, and she happily turned around and began to lick it, when suddenly some suspicious sound caught her attention. Suddenly, Mahar wolves attacked them from behind the bushes. The Mahar wolves closed in around them, and the dragon noted to himself that these meetings were becoming regular, and now he knew what they would have for dinner tonight. He bared his teeth, anticipating the fight. The dragon spit out flames, and the black lizard fired its clay attack. However, the wolves did not retreat and continued to surround them. Then the dragon used Dragon Strike, and the lizard used Poison Fang. which earned them 18 experience points. The dragon was determined to defeat the wolves and increase his experience. However, a window popped up saying that he could no longer gain experience points and had reached the limit. The wolves were growing in number, and they had wasted so many points without even checking the status of the wolves. But the status check skill didn't work. It turned out that Mahar wolves have the ability to transmit what they see with their third eye to nearby wolves, and they unite using this ability. However, the dragon could not see their status, although this was not the case the last time he saw them. The wolves moved as if mechanically and did not shy away from attacks, breaking through without a hint of fear. The dragon assumed that they were being manipulated by something. Now he thought that they should deal with them, but he didn't understand why there were so many of them and whether he should break through them. Suddenly, something outside the battlefield caught the dragon's eye. He frowned, trying to figure out what was going on there. The girl ran as fast as she could from the Mahar wolves, not understanding where they came from in such a place. She noticed that the wolves were heading towards the village, even though the barrier of the guardstone was protecting her, and she had to lead them away from the village. The secret villain who controlled the wolf monsters remembered the guardstone that the monsters avoided while he was sleeping. Upon awakening, he slightly modified the wardstone, rendering it useless, and was grateful to Dawes for this valuable information. It had taken him considerable time and effort to guide the Mahar wolves to the village, and although that had not been his original goal, he was willing to destroy it as a first step. When the wolf rushed at the exhausted and hopeless girl, thinking that he had not eaten for a long time and would feast on her today, she had already stopped resisting. Her eyes closed in anticipation of the inevitable. Suddenly, as if out of thin air, a dragon appeared and rescued the girl from the enraged wolf. She kept her eyes on his back, amazed by what she saw. A black dragon towered before her, and she could not believe her eyes. A shudder ran through her entire body. Hiding behind a tree and watching a pack of growling Mahar wolves pass by, she frantically thought about what to do. She knew she couldn't stand up to these powerful monsters, but doing nothing would put her village at risk, especially since her best adventurers were gone. She had to think of something. Using her fireball ability, she stepped out from behind a tree, attracting the attention of the wolves. She shouted at them and began to run, hoping to lead them away from her village. His keen hearing picked up her faint voice from afar, as if she was being attacked again, and he couldn't believe what he heard. As he continued to fight the wolves, he thought about using his roll skill to retreat, but he knew that would leave the black lizard defenseless. He was torn between the thought of saving the girl or the black lizard, but suddenly one of the wolves was attacked and thrown far back. There was a loud bang. These were the shoujo monkeys who came to the aid of their leader. They were making war cries, preparing for battle. One by one, the shoujo monkeys charged, crushing the wolves, and their arrival came just in time. The dragons saw that they had not only finished making shovels and hammers, but were using them effectively in battle, proving themselves to be unexpectedly valuable allies. Apologizing to the lizard, he said he had to go and rushed to save the girl. Running as fast as he could, he shouted words of apology, feeling terribly guilty, but realizing that time was running out. At that moment, notifications appeared about increasing the skill levels of Liar to the 4th and Little Hero to the 3rd, to which he muttered with annoyance that this reflected his condition perfectly, but he had to make it in time. Moments later, he was already in front of the girl and saved her from the wolves. He threw the nearest beast away with a powerful blow of his paw. Turning to her, he asked if she was hurt, but she just looked at him in amazement. He looked at her and did not understand what was wrong with her face, saddened that the situation had repeated itself and that his appearance had frightened her again. He was about to leave, but changed his mind, deciding that it was not safe to leave her alone. He could not understand what she was doing in the forest again, and although the meaning of her actions was unclear to him, she suddenly grabbed a weapon, and he assumed that she intended to fight him. But she screamed with joy, so much so that he thought she had gone mad, and, embarrassing him, she repeated his ridiculous breathing from their last meeting. He was completely puzzled. He didn't expect that she remembered this from their last meeting, and, raising his hands up, he growled in front of her. She, slightly frozen, rushed to him with hugs. He was embarrassed and couldn't believe that she knew that he was that little dragon from that time, because monsters in this world can change their appearance, and this is a well-known fact. But she only tried to actively convey something to him in an incomprehensible language, gesturing with her hands. Since the dragon's Garisha language skill was only at level 1 and was ineffective, He wondered if she would understand him if he tried to speak, since dragons did not have the ability to speak human language. Suddenly, a notification appeared that the quote language skill had increased to level 2, and he began to catch some of her speech, but she spoke too quickly. And he apologized and tried to explain to her that he did not understand her language. She asked if he understood her, but all she got in response was a growl. Meanwhile, a wolf with a third eye on its forehead was watching them, and the villain who controlled the wolves saw that the child of the Dragon of Calamity had saved the girl, which made him furious. He thought about how he had managed to get over the cliff, and that was already good, so he looked for options on what he could do with the dragon and the girl now. If this dragon helped people, his plan should work, and now was a great time, because he was sure that he could get rid of the baby dragon of disaster and was going to leave for a while so as not to interfere. His Garisha language skill had reached level 3, and he began to understand that she was looking for the adventurers who had disappeared in the forest. Although he had no knowledge of their disappearance, Dave's was lying under a tree, and both of them had returned severely exhausted, so their chances of survival were slim. He realized that no one from the village had come, and the girl had started looking for them herself, so it seemed to him that she was acting too recklessly, and he wondered whether he should help with the search or take her to the village. When suddenly the girl called him back, addressing him as Irisha, to which he looked at her in bewilderment, and she, embarrassedly apologizing, explained that this name was stuck in her head. It was the name of her favorite flower, and she could call him that if he liked it, and the dragon found the name cute enough. He was embarrassed by the awkwardness of the thought that he now had a name, and he couldn't believe that people could now call him that. And a window popped up in front of him with a suggestion to change his name to Irusha, but with a warning that it couldn't be changed, and he was surprised that his activated subconscious skill, Divine Voice, reacted to this. He was a little annoyed by this feeling of embarrassment from his new name, even though he knew it was just a word. But, thinking that since she had given him this name, there was no reason to refuse, he chose the name Irushia. He jumped up and down happily because he now had a name, but then froze, remembering that a girl was looking at him and giggling quietly. She apologized and said that he just wasn't acting like he usually did, and she thought he needed to be shown to the villagers, and she just wanted to thank him for helping him. He immediately became worried that if she didn't introduce him to the villagers, the dream of living in the village would remain just a dream, while she told him that she needed to know what was going on in the village. He was sheepishly thinking that maybe his awkwardness was just someone's ability, and that the lizard needed a new name too, when suddenly they heard an approaching noise and hurried to hide. A mysterious man emerged from the trees and, riding a wolf, ran past them, disappearing from sight with a stone in his hand. A living figure of a clay bear was approaching them, its clay paws treading heavily on the ground. The mountain dragon let out a piercing scream, and the dragon noticed that the girl recognized the man riding the wolf as he passed by. Her eyes widened in horror. She couldn't believe what she saw and mentally asked the man to stop, while remembering the villagers whose safety was under threat. And while the dragon looked at her in amazement and thought that maybe he was wrong to come but would try to help her, she explained that Daves had stolen the dragon's egg and wanted to use it to cause a real massacre. He quickly rushed through the forest, at the same time not understanding why the man was trying to bring the little earth dragon to the village, because no matter how angry he was that someone did not save him, it was pointless to take it to such a level of revenge. The girl asked the dragon to stop and slow down. Suddenly, a monster attacked them, and they tried their best to avoid its attacks. The Mahar wolves were standing in front of him again, the status of which he could not check, and he could not get away from them. He was trying to find a solution and figure out how to act. Suddenly, the wolf was attacked by a small black lizard that had been following them unnoticed. Its attack was unexpected and fast. Leaving the black lizard to deal with the wolves with her clay attack, he told her to run when the time came. The girl asked the dragon if the lizard was his friend, but he only told her to hold on tight. The goblins ran through the tunnel, giggling evilly, while the adventurers shouted at them to return what they had stolen, their voices echoing throughout the dungeon. Looking through the small gap, she said that they would not be able to get through and asked her partner if she could make a hole in the wall, but her partner replied that she was not that strong. Then she said that there was nothing to be done, and they would have to find another way, reminding her that she had warned her that if she broke the lamp, they would not be able to return back, and asked her to be careful. The partner said that if she didn't return the lamp back to the guild where she borrowed it, they would be forced to pay a fine, and then nervously stated that he led them in the wrong direction, while he replied that if they kept going, they would reach the exit, since he bought the best map, and she should just trust, to which the partner anxiously asked what would happen if she didn't trust him. Frightened by the corpse, the partner asked if there was a corpse when they entered, and that she probably hadn't noticed it, but that she would have definitely noticed something after. She demanded to see the map, assuring him that they were definitely going deeper, while he made excuses and said that he wouldn't give it to her because he was the one who bought it. She continued that everything was fine and asked to just give her the map, saying that there should be a staircase up here somewhere and that she was betting 3,000 gold on it. To which she agreed and then asked if she was sure she would pay. They found a ladder, but it turned out that it led down. Then the partner reminded her about the 3,000 coins, to which she, justifying herself, said that the main thing is that there is a ladder. To which the partner became even more indignant. She told them to wait and that there was something there, to which the other replied that she never changed and was so weird sometimes, while the other replied that it was sometimes like that and she was surprised that he got out of there just by walking straight, when the fourth replied that he was just following the map. He said that this time he saw a plague dragon in the Noah forest and that he had never seen such a monster before. He found more information about it in the guild, and it turned out that it could even transform into a human, which is very rare. She asked him, however, how long he had been watching the monster, expressing uncertainty about this information, to which the other added that most of the time these facts were taken from old children's stories, and that she was betting that she could deal with it without magic and hunt something else with them. Then the other again replied that if they went right now, they would not make it to the village before dawn. He continued that there was a stone dragon in the forest, and what's more, there was a bandit lair there, so he didn't know what kind of dangers they might face there. He expressed serious concern. He called out loudly to Rodar and informed him that they needed to gather more information when they arrived at the village. The missing adventurer, the clay bear, and the girl with the dragon, each of them was determined to follow their goals. Their intentions were strong. He knew that in order to get between the little mountain dragon and that man, he would have to overtake the clay bear, which the latter would clearly not like. Another problem was the girl, because if the clay bear hit her with a long-range attack, serious difficulties would arise. He was currently moving at maximum speed, and wondered if there was such an evolution that would significantly improve his speed. It suddenly occurred to him that even if his level returned to level 1, he would have a better chance of defeating the small mountain dragon. The Dark Dragonkin Inferior was the lowest class and was a humanoid dragon with black scales, classified as the second subrace of monsters. The C-rank skilled dragon was a dragon with 6 dexterous arms but low stats, although it could simultaneously manipulate many tools and weapons. But this option was eliminated due to the baby dragon's lack of weapons, and the small Arc Dragon had very high intelligence and was skilled in support and healing magic. There was also a Rolling Dragon, which specializes in speed and moves faster than normal humans, being one of the fastest dragons in the world. However, since it had a girl on its back, too much speed would cause her to fall, so this option was rejected. The C+ rank Jormungandr Dragon was a snake-like dragon with a deadly venom that no opponent could survive after being bitten. Its venom could be called a double-edged sword, but wherever this monster appeared, the land became unsuitable for plant growth and all living things died, so this option was rejected. The girl was depressed by the thought that the missing adventurer was an important figure because he killed any monster that wandered into the village, and all the children loved him. He himself was proud of protecting the village, and so she could still believe that he could make the Mahar wolves obey him. She had a strange premonition, but there was no choice but to save the village. She felt responsible for its inhabitants. The man, having prepared for the journey, asked the children if they had seen her. The children asked if he was talking about Miria's older sister, and replied that they had seen her go into the forest that morning, adding that she had asked not to tell anyone, which only confirmed the man's assumption. He asked the children which way she went, when suddenly their attention was drawn to an old man on a horse, and they were surprised to recognize the adventurer, who had changed beyond recognition and was standing in front of them as if in a new body, holding a strange thing in his hands, riding a monster. The children ran up to him, asking him questions about his whereabouts and the strange mount. But before the man could warn them, the maddened adventurer dealt a fatal blow to one of the children with his sword. The man grabbed his spear and asked him what he was doing, but he jumped off his horse and the monster charged at the man. The spear was his only defense. The man shouted to the children to run, and he himself rushed into battle against the monster. She told the dragon to cut down the trees right here, as it was the shortest route to the village, to which the dragon was surprised, being sure that he knew this forest better, but still doubted that she often came here. The girl added that there was a powerful magical barrier right above the village, and she did not remember ever meeting monsters here. They passed through the forest, and she explained that if they hadn't known about it, they wouldn't have been able to enter the village, as it often distracts monsters that come too close to the village, like now. Looking around, they noticed that the small mountain dragon hadn't appeared yet, while the adventurer was already there. The monster parried all the blows of the man's spear and quickly approached him, its fangs bared. However, the man was able to defeat the Mahar wolf with his spear. His stats were inferior to those of the Mahar wolves, but he fought skillfully, using his opponent's strength against him. Noticing the girl, he asked her if she had returned. But, slowing down slightly, he rushed with a spear at the monster, asking what it was. But the girl stopped him and explained that this dragon was on their side, and they came to stop the missing adventurer and find the Earth Dragon's egg as soon as possible. The man asked what they knew about the dragon eggs and about the condition of the injured boy. She replied that he had been cured, but was still unconscious. Suddenly, something caught the dragon's attention, and she said that if they did not hurry to the village, its inhabitants would be in danger. But the man countered that the dragon was right, she was badly injured, and asked him to look after her and return. She asked the dragon to save her village and began to heal his wounds, but the man said that she needed to keep her powers for herself, to which she agreed. The dragon thought that the girl was too worried about others, and hurried along with the man. He assumed that there were several barns where people were hiding, and most likely the adventurer would go there, and he himself would then return to the village. The man also admitted that he could not defeat him alone and never thought that there were dragons that helped people. He expressed his gratitude to the dragon, mentioning that he knew about the rescue of Maria in the forest. The dragon felt warm from the knowledge that not only the girl understood him, and hoped that helping people would bring him recognition. The man also noted that the name given to him suited him very well. But when they reached the settlement, they saw bodies of civilians lying everywhere, and the man declared that whatever he was thinking about, it would definitely not stop them now. Rage boiled in his heart. He asked the dragon to help him stop it, and immediately they heard the earth dragon approaching them. The ground under their feet began to shake. Holding a knife to the little boy's throat, he looked around furiously. Fear gripped the village. The inhabitants huddled in shelters. Many were maimed. There were desperate cries calling for immediate escape, and the man said that he did not understand what had happened, but it suddenly became aggressive, and when he tried to intervene, he was the only survivor. While he was holding the boy hostage, the men of the village came out to meet him with weapons in their hands, but before they could do anything, a dragon fell from the sky on him. The villagers became alert, shouting about the dragon, and there were calls to move away and not approach it. After this alarmed reaction, the dragon thought that the situation was not the best, and perhaps it was worth leaving. Looking at the enemy, he also assumed that perhaps he did not want to destroy the village. But eventually, the dragon decided that he needed to pull himself together, and, distracting the villain along with his partner, prepared to strike from behind. At the moment when the villain was about to harm the child, the dragon snatched the baby. The dragon and his partner attacked him from both sides, causing him damage. The dragon, looking at his opponent, thought that he could kill him, but since he was under someone's control, he would not do so. Even though he was badly wounded, he stubbornly stood there, not letting go of the egg, and at that moment the dragon realized that he could not see any of his skills. Leaving the baby in a safe place, the dragon noticed that the child understood everything, but was silent. The villagers who had escaped to a safe place were puzzled, assuming that the dragon might be working with Greg. But suddenly a sound attracted the dragon's attention, and he thought that even if he killed this man, he would still need to take the egg. But on the other hand, this was a man especially under someone's control, and suddenly he realized that he had wasted too much time thinking. The dragon gathered his wits and decided that he should just do it without wasting any time, and noticed his mate attempting to climb the tower to attack from there with a spear. The dragon nodded in approval. The dragon noticed that he was trying to escape, so he soared upward on his wings. But the tower began to collapse, and the dragon found himself under the rubble. At the same time, in the neighboring building, the stone dragon rose higher and higher. Its silhouette became more and more distinct against the sky. He waited for the stone dragon to attack, figuring it probably thought he was trying to attack the egg, so he hurried to get it back as quickly as possible. Time was against him. With a piercing roar, the stone dragon brought down a crushing blow on the houses. A deafening crack was heard. A powerful explosion blinded everything around, scattering debris of houses and people in different directions. Chaos and panic reigned. With incredible speed, the dragon and his partner avoided and fought off the debris flying at them. As the dragon ran and gained speed, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu, and dealt several powerful blows to the stone dragon. The stone armor cracked from the force of the blows. Using its ability, the dragon noticed that its opponent's stats had increased dramatically. The 24th level small mountain dragon had been transformed beyond recognition. Although this attack was quite powerful, it only dealt 14 points of damage to him. He had become noticeably stronger. Among his normal skills, his sand breath was level 4, strike was level 4, shout was level 4, movement was level 4, dragon tongue was level 1, stone breath was level 6, and clay was level 1. His defensive skills included fire resistance level 5, damage resistance level 3, magic resistance level 4, and his class skill was dragon scale level 4. Among the common skills, the mountain dragon had level 6 roll, level 5 skill view, level 5 dragon breath, level 1 whistle, level 3 dragon strike, level 1 devil breath, level 1 poison spit, level 1 poison claw, level 1 dragon tail, level 1 artillery, level 1 starfall, and level 1 transformation. Looking back, he saw the horrific sight of suffering, injured villagers, and heard the cries of children. He was overcome with anxiety, for this was the outcome he had tried to avoid. His mind was filled with thoughts that this could have happened because of his hesitation to kill, or because he was no longer in his world, and had failed to make the right decision when the opportunity presented itself, and that in this world, the strongest survived, and violence could not be avoided. His friend shouted that he was going to distract the earth dragon and told the others to take care of the wounded and run. Then the dragon thought that it was not the time to regret his previous decisions, and if he did this, the villagers should have enough time to escape. She was searching for something urgently, rummaging through the bottom shelf of the bookcase, and, having packed her bag, she quickly hurried out of the house. The head of the village, noticing her, wondered with interest where she could be in such a hurry. At this time, the battle with the mountain dragon was flaring up more and more, gaining momentum. As he launched attacks one after another, he still realized that the blows only dealt 14 points of damage. Finding himself right in front of the dragon's nose, he was caught off guard, unable to fly, and was preparing to take the blow. At that moment, his friend, swinging his spear, struck his blows. Watching the dragon's furious gaze, he realized that the mountain dragon was completely oblivious to him, and seemed to see no difference between Gregory and them. They were just small, annoying creatures to him. But the dragon was glad of this, because by distracting him, they would gain time and be able to come up with a plan of attack. They launched attacks one after another, desperately trying to distract the mountain dragon. Each strike was an attempt to buy a little time. The dragon thought he could at least hurt him a little, but his claws couldn't even penetrate his opponent's armor, which meant that his poisonous fangs wouldn't work either, and he didn't have any other skills to defeat him with. The attacked children's breath would only heat up his armor, and because of the debris around him, he wouldn't be able to stand up to do a roll, plus he didn't have anything harder than a stone dragon on hand to hit him on the head and cause major damage with starfall. He saw that he didn't have any ability to harm him, but he just had to find the most vulnerable part of his body and break through the armor. That was his only chance. The dragon focused on finding the mountain dragon's most vulnerable parts, striking at the fingertips, stomach, and knees, but seemed to find no weak points and inflicted little damage. Only the 2 strikes to the head caused any significant damage, causing the dragon to begin to think of the head as its weak point. If he could jump, he would again only have to hope that the mountain dragon would not react, but it suddenly began to inhale air, preparing to attack, and this was a bad sign. The dragon assumed that he wanted to destroy everything around him with his breath, and hid his intentions too well, and the dragon realized that he had missed his chance to repel his attack. His partner could be fatally injured even if the mountain dragon did not get caught in the middle of this attack, and the dragon anxiously thought about what to do and how he should prevent this. He wondered if he could save his partner by shielding him with his body, or if it would be impossible. Before he could even decide how to get to his comrade, the dragon saw arrows flying straight into his eye. The dragon and his companion looked back to see where the arrows were coming from and saw the men of the village lined up, calling for those who could use a bow to aim for the mountain dragon's eyes. Their faces were filled with determination and hope. The dragon hoped that the archer's arrows would at least damage the mountain dragon and distract it, giving them time to slowly but surely whittle away at its life. As he watched it all, it seemed like it was just a numbers game. The dragon continued to fiercely attack the mountain dragon from all sides. Anticipating the mountain dragon's attack with the ground, he shouted that he would not allow it to happen, and jumped up and attacked with the baby breath technique. A stream of hot air hit the stone armor. He assumed that this skill would deal continuous damage to him and also allow him to launch a counterattack. But suddenly the small stone dragon changed its status to an enraged dragon. He couldn't believe that after all this, his stats had only dropped by 21 points, and that in order to defeat this monster, he would have to repeat the same attack again. But panic was taking over, because they had few arrows left, and he was already at the limit, and he did not have enough firepower. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to the inhabitants who were buried under the rubble and could not get out, and he saw that there were still many people stuck under the rubble. As he picked up the fallen debris, he realized that he would have to make even more efforts to ensure that the residents could be saved. The mountain dragon was about to attack the dragon and the fleeing villagers with its heavy tail. Its blow could sweep away everything in its path. But the young dragon was able to hold onto his tail with his own hands, falling into the ground from the force of the blow. The young dragon's fearlessness level rose to level 2, and he ordered the people under his tail to run. After everyone ran away, he threw back his tail and rushed to the side, but was still hit by the tail. He was thrown to the side. He slammed into the wall, his life bar dropping to critical. The attack nearly killed him. He staggered and called out to his partner with the spear to run, but his partner charged at the mountain dragon again and barely escaped the mountain dragon's earth tremor attack. Debris from the earth after the earth tremor flew from all sides and knocked down the dragon's partner. He fell to the ground with a scream. Trapped under a boulder, his partner bleeding, the dragon spoke to him, saying that they could not win, and even if they had not suffered so much to begin with, he knew it was foolhardy, and nothing could stand against him. There was desperation in the dragon's voice. He struggled to catch his breath, but he realized that the mountain dragon had almost no strength left, having spent it on the previous attack, and he needed to act now, because his partner would die if he hesitated. Every second was critical. Looking at the window offering to show potential evolution, he wondered if he should endure the evolution right now when he was on equal terms with the mountain dragon, but he didn't know how to confront him with his status being reset back to level 1. The risk was huge. Continuing to analyze the situation, he knew that he still had a chance to win thanks to the poisonous essence of Jormungandr, but if he chose it, having undergone serious changes in his appearance, although he would be able to win, the poison would spread throughout the village and kill all the inhabitants. And if he chose the form of a dragon that could use healing magic, namely Little Arc Dragon, the attacks would not be as strong, but he would be able to heal his partner, himself, and all the villagers, continuing the battle. But the question was how well he could use healing magic with his first-tier status. But the subconscious voice of God's skill connected and was raised to the 4th level, telling the dragon to run, warning that the authority to interfere had been acquired, and the dragon now began to understand his phrases, and they were no longer templates. The voice sounded authoritative and convincing. This voice in the subconscious was becoming more and more determined and active, increasing the tension, and the dragon noticed that the voice became more meaningful and assumed that it could be due to the increase in level. He felt himself getting irritated by the voice, which seemed to look at all this as a game. The voice became more and more demanding and stern, telling the dragon to run away, that he was just a child concerned with people, and that he could predict the future using Laplace's simulation, and if he survived, then he could contact him. A window popped up with information that the probability of winning in the event of turning into a small arc dragon was 4%, and the probability of successfully attempting to help the villagers was less than 1%. While the probability of the resulting connection when evolving into Jormungandr is 98%, but the probability of destroying the village is 94%, and the probability of winning when evolving into a rotating dragon is less than 1%, and the probability of successfully escaping is 99%. The numbers spoke for themselves. He couldn't understand how the skill simulation of future prediction had been activated, and it seemed like it had been prepared in advance to shatter his hopes. The feeling of hopelessness was growing. He wasn't going to believe the voice of the imposter god in his head, and was still going to use the evolution into a small arc dragon that required a recovery plan. The hope of saving the villagers was stronger than fear. Seeing the potions in his friend's hands, he assumed that they were healing potions, but he didn't know how effective they would be if he continued to drink them under the boulder, and hurried to pull him out from under the boulder. His friend didn't understand why, being a dark dragon, he still helped people, and asked him, realizing that now was not the best time to ask, but he was the only one he could turn to now, and grabbed the dragon's hand. He told the dragon that if it needed strength, he wouldn't mind being eaten, suggesting that it had probably never attacked humans, and therefore might not replenish its energy as a dark dragon, and that even if it sounded cruel, it would still die. His voice was weak but determined. The dragon shuddered at his words about eating a man. While his partner continued to die, offering to save the village for him, the dragon could not understand why this man, like that girl, always sought to put others before himself. Holding the knife to his throat, he apologized to the dragon and inflicted a mortal wound on himself, thanking him in the end. The villagers watching were shocked, but the dragon sensed that his dying comrade somehow understood his inner struggle and hesitation. Meanwhile, the villagers misinterpreted what they saw, thinking that the dragon had simply gotten rid of one of his enemies by cutting off their friend's head. In despair, the inhabitants shouted that they did not care who won. Death awaited them, but the dragon, gathering all his will and mentally thanking his partner for the recognition, decided that he would not allow his hope to fade, and felt a surge of strength. The skill level of Homeless Path, Path of the Lost Child, increased to the 5th, Vile Behavior of the King, Violence of the King to the 2nd, and Calamity to the 3rd. There was no child of the Dragon of Calamity when choosing the evolution path, but he was sure that he did not fulfill any conditions for it, and if he thought about it, it was the highest rank among all the other available evolutions. This confused him. Now he has a chance to defeat the mountain dragon. The dragon has evolved into a, quote, calamity dragon and gained the special skill Sinful Dragon, as well as the skills Present Sense, Kamdatachi, Automatic Point Regeneration, Neck Rupture Dance, and Baby's Breath has been transformed into Inferno Breath. Among the normal skills, Somersault has reached level 2, Status Inspection has reached level 5, Inferno Breath has reached level 5, Whistle has reached level 5, Dragon Strike has reached level 3, Weakening Breath has increased from level 1 to level 3, Poison Fang has increased from level 1 to level 3, Paralysis Claws have increased from level 1, Scream has increased from level 1, Shooting Star has increased from level 1, Nutcracker has increased from level 1, Nutcracker has increased from level 2, Kamaitachi has increased from level 1, Neck-Breaking Dance has increased from level 1, and various new titles, special skills, and resistances have appeared. He has become a Dragon of Calamity, an evil dragon that is excellent at flying and fighting, but also brings calamity with him. He bathes in the blood of his victims and builds a bed out of piles of bones, as one of the greatest embodiments of calamity that will simply exist. But the mountain dragon is about to leave even after seeing his evolution and is just being cautious with him, but is still angry and doesn't seem to be going to stop until he destroys the village completely, hoping that this will be the end of it. From the mountain dragon's point of view, he came to get the egg back, but he was determined that if he could protect nothing else, he would at least protect the village, and that he should not expect the villagers to flee on their own. He kept thinking that perhaps his curse was affecting them, and in any case, he had to consider that they, being big, would not be able to fight there any longer. It was his duty to protect these people. The air was filled with tension, growing more intense with each passing second. The silence seemed to scream of an approaching storm. The distance between the two dragons was decreasing with each passing second, and so the two dragons collided heads. There was a deafening roar, and a wave of power rolled across the area. A fierce battle between the two dragons began. Fury and power clashed in a deadly dance. The dragon reminded himself that he could not give up. He had to stand to the end for those who believed in him. Blow after blow, attack after attack, they inflicted damage on each other. Neither wanted to give in. He told himself that he could do it. Evolution had increased his attack power, and that helped a lot. But his increased size was more important, and now he could redirect the enemy's attacks before they could overwhelm him. And he could easily reach his face and do much more damage. But the thought of not causing unnecessary damage to the surroundings was holding him back. And so, when the mountain dragon used the earth tremor attack again, he realized that his center of gravity had risen, and he had a chance to take advantage of it. The moment for a counterattack had arrived. He concentrated all his strength in one direction and tried to push and push the mountain dragon, his muscles strained to the limit. The villagers noticed that the dragons were no longer at the battle site, and they had a chance to escape. Hope flared up in their hearts. The girl ran to the villagers in a hurry with the village chief, and one of the villagers explained that the black dragon that was with them had killed its partner and ran away in that direction. When she said that it was a lie and that it couldn't be, he replied that he wasn't lying and that the dragon had cut off their friend's head, had grown bigger, and was probably still fighting the mountain dragon. And still not believing what she heard, with tears in her eyes, the girl tried to figure it out in confusion. The head of the village said that they did not have time, and they had to concentrate, take care of the wounded, and help her. The village head was actively treating the wounded, but the villagers were in a hurry to leave before the dragons returned, despite the village head's words that it was dangerous to move her now. She thanked the girl for coming in time, and they were able to provide first aid, and then offered to examine her own wounds. But the girl was not there, and the head of the village began to ask if they had seen where she had gone. The people around only answered that she had just been there, and suggested that perhaps she had gone after the dragon. The head of the village then said that she, too, had noticed that when the girl spoke of this, she seemed strangely preoccupied, and, telling the man that she would leave it to him, she hurried after her. The girl ran as fast as she could towards the sound of the dragons fighting. Her heart was pounding wildly with fear and anxiety. The fight between them continued. The fury of the battle did not subside, but the dragon had already despaired of being able to push the mountain dragon back into the forest. But he could sense that no one was nearby, and therefore was free to act. Continuing to attack the mountain dragon and mentally apologizing, he said that when he didn't have to care about his surroundings, he wasn't going to let him attack as he wanted. He felt that his speed had decreased after evolving, but it was still the speed of a mountain dragon. And when the mountain dragon used its skill, Earthquake, crushing everything around it, the dragon flew up on its wings with the skill Flight. The ground beneath it shook and cracked. Breaking away from him and hovering behind him, he realized that he could strike back from this position and show him the full fury of hell now that he was stronger. Sitting on his opponent's back, he dealt blow after blow, drowning out his screams. The blows followed one after another, without ceasing. Gathering all his strength into his fist, he growled that his blow was pain, unbearable pain. He apologized to the mountain dragon for comparing him to a punching bag, correcting himself that he was more like a rock, and he was punching a rock. He thought about how even if he continued to attack, the damage was small, and considered jumping off and engaging in open combat. But that seemed risky, so he decided to play to his strengths. Trying to block its movements, he grabbed the mountain dragon's paws, his claws digging deep into his opponent's scales. He began to doubt his theory about the weak spot on the enemy's face, and thought that perhaps the neck was a more vulnerable target. He realized that right now he had a chance to finish him off. The decisive moment had arrived. He attacked the mountain dragon with the attack Neck Destruction Dance. The blades of his claws flashed, aiming for the vulnerable spot. The mountain dragon fell to the ground in defeat, and the dragon could not believe that he had defeated him. He had 384 experience points added, and he had reached level 90, and the skill Neck Destruction Dance had risen to level 2, Dragon Spores had reached level 4. But from behind, the dragon's gaze suddenly noticed that girl again. She stood motionless, watching him. She asked him if he had evolved, and that it might have allowed him to defeat the stone dragon, while he was thinking about how she had refused to run, and had come to see for herself. He was amazed at her courage. She asked him about his friend, but there was silence in the air. The dragon did not know what to answer. He gritted his teeth because he knew that there was no way he could explain it to her, and even if he could speak, he would have to just say that he had killed him, because that was the whole truth. And then, ordering the girl to go away, he pushed her away and took the unexpected blow on himself. The attack was carried out by the village chief, who was shouting at the girl to run away while she bought them time, since she wasn't very good at such offensive spells. But the girl tried to stop her, shouting that this was the dragon she had told her about, and that he was still a child. But she screamed at her that it couldn't be a child, and that she, the idiot, should move away. It was impossible for him to become this huge thing in such a short period of time. It would have to take at least 2 or 3 evolutions. But in her mind, she knew it was strange that the dragon didn't show any sign of attacking, and the girl might be telling the truth, and in any case, provoking him was a bad idea. The girl continued that she was sure that what happened to their comrade was just a misunderstanding. But the village chief ordered her to just leave him, and if he were someone else, she could accept it. But this is a dragon of calamity, and even just being near him will curse her. Her life will be sucked out, because he is the worst among the devil dragons. The dragon, thinking that even though he looked like this girl was still standing by him, just like they had when they first met, tried to apologize. But the village chief considered it an attempt at attack and, attacking him with a spear of light, ordered the girl to leave. A beam of light pierced the air, heading towards the dragon. At that moment, the dragon spread its wings and soared into the air. The village chief questioningly suggested that he had fled because of her magic. As she watched him go, the girl thought that she couldn't believe that evolution had made him more aggressive, because he had fought to protect them and couldn't have changed that much. She refused to believe it. The dragon knew it was rather clumsy, but knowing this girl better, just leaving without explaining everything to her, meant that she would follow him into the forest without a doubt. And he was ready to sever all ties if he chose to evolve into a dragon of calamity, but he had no other options. Resistance to loneliness reached the 6th level, and the dragon grinned ironically, thanking for it in his mind, while in the thicket below, someone was watching him angrily. Someone's eyes, full of hatred, followed his every move. He laughed louder and louder, shouting that he couldn't believe the unexpected turn of events. The child of the dragon of calamity could evolve for the sake of victory. His laughter sounded crazy and threatening. Saying that it was now interesting and it was time to visit the village, he grinned maliciously, looking into the distance. The dragon quickly approaches the abyss, stops at its very edge. Suddenly he notices flowers under his paws that are very small compared to him. These are the same red and white flowers. This is the favorite flower of the girl Milia. The inner voice, in the form of a guy Dave, saw this image of a girl Milia. Mockingly, the voice asked that the girl called him Irusha. The dragon remembers the past. Then he hesitated for a long time and could not kill Dave. One flower and the memory of the name Milia were able to stop him before the abyss. Next time, the dragon will not underestimate those who organize the attack on the village. Despite the fact that his ties with the village are severed, he will keep his promise to protect the village at any cost. Suddenly, he saw a black lizard. She recognized him. Even his changed appearance did not stop her. The lizard climbed onto his face, as if hugging him, after separation. In his head, there was only one question. How did she recognize him? The lizard saved him then, for which he thanked her. She was sitting on the side of his large muzzle. Considering their size now, he felt ticklish from her presence on his cheek. The rosy-faced ones will also need to be thanked, because they also saved his life. The dragon cannot shake off the feeling of concern for those who are close to him, the lizard and the others. What if they too suffer from his curse? It's all about his dragon skin. Decided to think about this question later. Meanwhile, in the village that suffered from the attack, a local girl was very upset. She sat with her head down, her elbows on her knees. A little girl mage saw a villager upset. The girl mage is worried about the state of the barrier around the village, the power of which is given by the power of the magic protection stones. So she made a decision, albeit a risky one, to protect herself with illusion magic. With its help, she will be hidden from monsters. Hidden by illusionary magic, the girl walks through the forest. She meets our hero, the dragon. He tried to hide in the shadows of the trees, although the trees do not hide him at all. Thinking about the need to find a new base of operations, the dragon is thinking up a plan in his head to investigate what could have controlled Dave and the Mahar wolves in the village. Knowing the entire road to the village well, he decided to set up an ambush for those who carried out the attack, because their goal is to destroy the village. Of course, there is a chance that his plan will be revealed. He could not drive away the black lizard, allowing it to be an observer, and it also has a unique poison that can be useful in the future. The dragon noticed the presence of an unknown creature. The dragon senses that this someone is heading towards the village, and something tells him that this is the leader of the monsters. And so they meet. The bait worked, the damn slime. It was awkward, but the plan failed. It wasn't the head of the monsters in front of him. It was children, a boy and a girl, twins. The dragon remembered what Milia had once told him about the missing twins. But how did they come here? And why now? A stream of slime sprays at the Dranon. A shapeshifter? The dragon's instincts were right. He sensed the presence of only one creature, not two. The slug was also expecting to meet the dragon. He tells him that the dragon is a real pain in the ass. The dragon's abilities prevent it from seeing the slime's full list of abilities. The dragon is an eyesore to the slime. The slime has an appearance similar to an old woman. In the acquired skills, it has the skill Voice of God and Status Check. The slime was grateful that the dragon destroyed the small stone dragon for the slime. As it turned out, the slug did not control the little stone dragon. The slug can take away the abilities of the dead, so he wants to take away the abilities of the dead dragon. And then he has a plan to kill the villagers. The slime fights only with the weak, whom it can kill and take away its abilities. Therefore, the dragon cannot miss it now. The abilities of our dragon slime also interested. The fight began. The battle between the dragon and the slug is observed by a black lizard. It is frightened. The slug notices the presence of the creature behind the tree. The dragon uses a clay gun against the slug. Slime is not easily wounded. His wounds heal immediately. It is suspected that his strength is much greater than his rank. Slime uses real slime skills against our dragon. Is the true form of the last boss of the forest a slime? After all, a slime is a dark green monster of rank F+. It has no abilities. It lives off others like a parasite. Rare types of slime can be high level. It has an interesting property. When it disintegrates, it can form mini copies of itself. They can exist separately and not affect each other in any way. Slime can change its color to bright green. It depends on the environment. The slime can acquire unusual properties. This will distinguish it from its relatives in the colony. For this difference, it can be expelled from the colony. Usually, the life of such an outcast ends when it is eaten by a predator. Slime inside? Is it an egg? What if it doesn't die and finds prey weaker than itself? Thinking about the abilities of slimes during battle, especially about absorbing the abilities of dead opponents. Maybe it happened because of some instability during reincarnation. Comes to the conclusion that maybe he gets their memory in addition to the skills. Perhaps it will be possible to reach his consciousness with the help of the Voice of God skill. What is inside this slime? The battle is still going on. The slug or slime wants to surround him. At that moment, a black lizard comes out of hiding. Despite the normal humanoid stats, the slime attacks the dragon painfully. It was a surprise for the slime that the lizard appeared on the battlefield. The slime had an idea to absorb the effect of the poisons from the lizard. The dragon focused on his abilities, Increase plus Harden, and Strike. The slug predicts the trajectory of the dragon's strikes. The dragon decides to use the skill it acquired after Kamaitachi's reincarnation. A powerful blow from the dragon, which the slime recognized and took a counterattack, in the form of a shockwave. But what kind? It looks like a slime wave. The dragon uses a powerful Kamaitachi attack, but it doesn't have enough mana, and the slime seems to have a passive recovery. In this case, our dragon is finished. And now powerful attacks meet each other. Powerful, beautiful, epic. It turns out the slug can shoot from its hands. The dragon uses the rotation skill, which was a surprise for the slime. This skill helps to reflect bullets. The slime uses the turtle shell and harden skill. The dragon used reflect. Dodged with it. No problem. They had a small squabble. The slug turns into a dragon. He understands that his dragon cannot defeat him, and if he runs away now, nothing will work. The dragon agrees that this cannot continue any longer. The slug was left perplexed. The slug concluded that the dragon was stupider than he expected. But then the dragon suddenly flew high. He took off with the slime. Flying higher and higher, the dragon added rotation, soaring so high that the ground became far away. He began to fall sharply. The closer they got to the ground, the faster they accelerated. This skill is called Shooting Star. The slug used the skill Spider Thread. This skill allowed the slug to release webs like a spider gliding. The dragon's Shooting Star skill was now level 2. The slug explained to the puzzled dragon that, although he could not fly, he could glide like spiders in the wind. The slug recognized that the dragon was acting unusually for its kind, and he was close. At that moment, a black lizard appeared, which was a surprise for the slug. She has something in mind against the slug The dragon calls the lizard in desperation. The lizard used its poison. The slug is calm. It has resistance to poisons of the 7th level, but no such luck. The timer started. The lizard managed to use poison after all. The dragon and the lizard decided to go further away. The slug will not be able to catch up with them. But then, the slug uses the slow skill. The state of slowdown, minor, had arrived. That was all the dragon had time to realize. Everything had slowed down. The slug is still in the state of a spider thread. The wolves set off from the slug, the last ones. He saved them for such an occasion. The dragon used the skill Hot Breath to counteract, albeit very slowly. The slug did not want the dragon and the lizard to try to escape from him. The lizard was captured, and the slug hid behind the wolves. He was going to torture the lizard. He needed to get an antidote from it for the poison used. Everything would be terrible if he swallowed the lizard. The lizard was locked in a crystal. It is unclear what this slime slug wants, what it is trying to achieve. What it did with the lizard is also unclear. The mage girl examines the protection stones. There is nothing special about the barrier stone, and that is also good. This stone will protect the village from monsters. She still needs to learn about countermeasures for unforeseen situations. But then she hears a loud roar. The girl mage, previously hidden by illusionary magic, saw the battle of 2 monsters, and again this dragon, familiar to her from the attack on the village. She decides to understand the true intentions of the dragon. This dragon is not affected by barriers. If the magician girl doesn't check what's going on here now, it will be even worse. The lizard is still trapped in the crystal. The black lizard trapped the dragon? She wonders why nothing worked on the slimes. The battle between the dragon and the slug continues despite the slowdown. The wounds inflicted on the dragon are insignificant for it. The main thing now is to defeat the slug. The dragon uses all his strength to break the crystal. He can't. The crystal is very hard. The difficulty is that he himself cannot move. There is a chance that the dragon will be left without air. Things are bad. The dragon is thinking about a plan to rescue the lizard and defeat the slug. The dragon cannot use the shooting star skill as it can harm the lizard. It turns out that slowdown was also a plus for the dragon. The slug could not heal so quickly. The dragon swings hard and strikes the crystal. Wolves are hanging on his paw. He swings with them. The wolves are no obstacle to striking. The skill Dance of Broken Necks is used by the dragon. The blow is powerful and destructive. The crystal is split. The lizard is separated from the slime. The dragon is surprised and glad that this trick worked. The lizard is free and has already melted from the crystal. The dragon promises himself that next time he will keep her safe, but does not have time to finish. The slug is surprised that the poison used by the lizard is so incredible. It seems the slug was able to neutralize the poison of the black lizard. It did it. The lizard's poison neutralization status disappeared. As the slug explained, it turns out that he can receive abilities not only from the dead. The main thing is to immobilize the victim. Thanks to this, he survived, despite receiving a large dose of the lizard's poison. Now this slug has set its sights on the lizard's abilities. The dragon decides to split up, which will be difficult to do, knowing the lizard's character. The slug somehow found out about the dead gorilla, and is also interested in the gorilla's ability to evolve. The slug has too many cheating abilities, that's why it's so dangerous. The dragon needs to defeat it. The dragon wonders what else he can do against the slug. The slug is clearly not his level. It seems the dragon has used all of his skills. The slug also mentally asks God questions about where the dragon got skills like Voice of God and Read status from. After all, God promised to make only the slug the strongest creature. To this, God will answer that he did so that the slug could grow in strength. The argument between God and the slug continues. God explains that the dragon is also another candidate. The slug does not understand and gets angry about this. The slug decides that the dragon is not worthy of being made into another candidate by the god, since its Voice of God skill is still low. The slug goes mad and attacks the dragon to take his memories of conversations with God. The three-eyed wolves attack the dragon. They are no match for him, so the dragon focuses on the slug. The battle between the slug continues. He attaches his entire being to the dragon's paw. Thus, he does not allow the dragon to use its abilities. The dragon tries unsuccessfully to shake the slug off its paw. By clinging to the dragon, the slug seems to be sucking the life out of the dragon. Its plan is to suck all the strength out of it like this. The health continues to decrease. The words that the slug is stuck to the dragon to death give him an idea of how to get it off his paw. He decides to use shooting star and throw the slug off using centrifugal force. Having realized the dragon's plan, the slug begins to panic. The dragon doesn't know if he'll survive this. He has nothing to lose, his health is almost at 0. The most important thing for the dragon is that this act will protect the village and the lizard. The lizard sees the dragon and the slug rising high into the sky. The girl mage also sees this action of the dragon. And now the dragon begins to fall. The slug still does not believe that this is happening. The dragon doesn't just fall into the heights. He rushes full speed into the gorge. The slug's thoughts rush through him. He is in a panic. In this panic, he admits his defeat. He is ready for anything now. The dragon is not stopped by this admission of the slug. The slug screams in despair that he will never come near this village and this forest again. The dragon does not believe him. The lizard and the magician girl look at the falling couple in shock. The dragon is ready to kill the slug, even at the cost of his own life. In front of the black lizard and the girl mage, the dragon and the slug fly into the abyss at high speed. The lizard's eyes are full of fear. The girl mage runs to the edge of the abyss. They are still flying down. The slug is shocked that there is a rock below. The slug's last thoughts are that he will die in such a place. The dragon and the slug hit the rock below the chasm. The impact was powerful. The slug peels off the dragon. At that moment, the voice of God appeared in the slug's head. God said that he, the slug, was the candidate for testing. The slug found it hard to believe. The dragon lies at the bottom of the abyss. The blow has seriously injured him. And it looks like death. The dragon's last thoughts were hope that everything worked out and that this attack managed to damage the slug. Consciousness leaves him. The last thing the dragon saw before he passed out were the frightened faces of the black lizard and the magician girl. 4 people came to a village attacked by monsters. There was destruction and ruins all around. They did not know what could have happened here. The traces of destruction in the village clearly do not look like a natural disaster. Suspicion immediately fell on a raging monster. There are no villagers nearby. The tracks led further. Only one girl was still sitting to the side. A local girl recalled how a dragon fell into the abyss. The tracks of 4 adventurers led to the abyss. There, they saw a dead dragon. 4 people who followed the trail saw a local girl. At first, they thought that it was she who killed the dragon, to which the girl told them that it was Illyasviel. The adventurers thought that this person was an adventurer like them, to which the resident said that this was not so, and that she was not quite human at all. And then a girl magician appeared. The girl mage first turned to the villager to heal her wounds, and only then did she tell the girl mage what had happened. She then invited 4 adventurers to her mansion for a talk. The girl mage turned out to be a half-elf. They came to the half-elf's small mansion. Inside, everyone was seated in a spacious room. The half-elf was sitting in a chair by the fireplace. The guests were either standing in front of Illyasviel or sitting. One of the adventurers was standing to the side. One of the adventurer girls healed all the wounds of the villager. It turned out that the half-elf asked the adventurer to heal the wounds. The adventurer standing aside did not believe that such a battle between dragons took place in the village. The adventurers apologized to Illyasviel and the resident for not being there during the dragon battle in the village. She stopped these apologies as they left to find people. No one could have predicted such events. The adventurers continued to discuss the B-rank dragon battle. They came to the conclusion that they needed to inform the guild about this, so that the guild would send a punitive detachment. A local resident in despair shouted to wait. The villager thought that the dragon of disaster was protecting the village. The half-elf also expressed the same opinion. When the village was attacked, there were only 6 people. The deceased dragon of disasters and diseases killed only one Gregory, and that is doubtful. As if the dragon saved Gregory from suffering. The half-elf heard one of the monsters promise not to come near the village. The half-elf assumed that the dragon of disasters and diseases thus protected the village from even greater destruction. One of the adventurers suggested that if this dragon were a more docile species, it could be used as a familiar. But it is hard to believe. The residents still believed that if you put all the actions together, it really did look like But the resident was interrupted, saying that this couldn't be true. One of the adventurers expressed doubt that this could be true. The dragons of disasters are really little studied. Perhaps finding the predecessors will help to understand what abilities such dragons possess. One of the adventurers spoke positively about the possibility of evil dragons that save people. A local resident would also like to see such a dragon. First, you need to inform the guild right now. The villager said she would like to go with them. They pointed out to her that she had better change her clothes first. The sleeves of the villager's dress were torn. She quickly went out to do this. The half-elf also went to tell everyone everything. Before leaving, she offered the adventurers to stay in her mansion. She also asked them to stay for a few days so that they could guard the surrounding area. One of the adventurer girls suggested that the guild send workers to cut up the dragon's carcass. The idea of cutting up the half-elf's carcass also worried her, since a large decaying carcass would cause illness. The adventurer suggested selling the materials. Using the proceeds, reconstruct the village. In order to make up for her absence during the attack, the adventurer offered her help to the half-elf. The half-elf did indeed have one request for the adventurers. The Miria resident who went to change clothes, the request is related to her. The half-elf asked the adventurers to take Miria with them when they leave the village. The girl Miria was overcome with doubts and thoughts while she was changing. The thoughts were that she wanted to leave the village with the adventurers. Miria was sad when she was told that the dragon had jumped to the bottom of the ravine. She wondered if he was okay. A small bunny was jumping along the bottom of the gorge. He approached the dragon. The lying dragon opened his eyes. The dragon, who was practically dead, was alive. He was very happy about this and thanked God. The bunny, who had been jumping calmly before, quickly jumped away from the dragon. The dragon crawled out of the ravine. There was no one nearby. The sun was shining. There were no trees around. The dragon was in shock. Very shocked. He was on the coast of a sandy beach. He didn't understand where he was. There are so many questions in the dragon's head. Did the fight lead to the desert? How did this happen? What happened to the slug? There is only desert around, and nothing else, and no one. Illyasviel is a dragon of disasters and diseases. His level has increased to 20. It has dawned on him that if the level has increased, it means he has defeated the slime. The dragon had some thoughts about the slug. He needed to find out from him how he raised his level so much, and about his god's voice skill. But the dragon didn't have time for that during the battle. The dragon doesn't know where he is. Perhaps he was carried away by the current. Perhaps he is at the mouth of the river. Perhaps he was carried away to another continent. To understand, he decides to fly higher and look around. Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere there is sand. It is not clear which side is the village. And on the other side there is only the sea. It is not clear which side is the village. The dragon is overcome by despair and a feeling of loneliness. The cursed dragon scale. He misses the black lizard and the monkeys. Luckily, the dragon has a chance to evolve and get rid of the curse of scales. Then it will be possible to return. The dragon's internal scanner didn't detect any monsters around. And the dragon is also very hungry. It only noticed the poor, trembling bunny. The dragon scanner identified this rabbit as a pocket moon rabbit. The rabbit's rank was F. The rabbit was shaking with fear. The dragon does not dare to eat such a cute little hare. It would not be enough to satisfy his hunger. But then he sees a baby scorpion. The scorpion has set its sights on the moon hare. It attacks. The dragon crushes the scorpion. As he explained to himself, his hand twitched. The hare stares at this picture and suddenly bites into the scorpion's body. The hare furiously gnaws at the body of the dead scorpion. The dragon is shocked and confused. The moon rabbit turns out to be not so simple. After eating it, a message is voiced that it will not be able to get more experience due to the large difference in ranks. The rabbit finished off the scorpion by eating its entrails. The hare hopped away after eating. The dragon wished the hare to survive, and then the hare suddenly returned to devour the scorpion's body. What's going on? After eating, the hare became bigger in size and rank, and its abilities improved. And it seems the hare still wants to eat. It looks at the dragon with pleading eyes. The dragon decides to feed it until it is full. There are many creatures living in the sand. The dragon used the roar skill. Scorpions crawled out of the sand waters. Lots of scorpions. The bunny is happy. The hare eats scorpions with pleasure. His rank increases. Having wished the hare not to be caught by strong opponents, the dragon went on. The dragon could use a snack too. He hasn't eaten anything for a long time. He probably should have eaten the remains of the scorpions. The dragon is losing a lot of fluid, and his throat is pretty dry. First, the dragon needs to find a source of water. Seawater would be dangerous for the dragon to drink. Suddenly he notices a cactus. It dawns on him that there is enough liquid in the cactus. The internal scanner is defined as a cactus with its properties and value. The dragon is lucky. The dragon starts chewing on the cactus. It tastes like pineapple dessert. And the cactus spines weren't much of an obstacle for the dragon, thanks to his protection. The moon bunny also starts eating the cactus. The dragon was surprised that he was still following him. The bunny sits on the dragon's face. It seems the dragon won't be able to just leave him. The dragon has a plan to raise the bunny's level. Suddenly, dust rises in the distance, as if someone is approaching. It turns out that a desert panther is quickly approaching them. It's time for the dragon to have a snack. But what's up with this panther? A huge monster, similar to a scorpion or a centipede, is rushing after the panther. With huge teeth and fangs many times larger than the panther. Probably the size of the dragon itself. The dragon is in great shock. The panther is rushing after him, this centipede-like thing. But that's not all. It seems the rabbit has grown in size and scared these monsters. It's just incredible how many different creatures can live in this desert. The rabbit continues to eat cacti and seems to be full. The dragon wonders how much he can eat and when he will be full. In the desert there is a fortress city, an ordinary street in this city. An unknown man comes to the city. The locals whisper that this man is the hero. Mr. Hero, he has returned to the city of Harini. The hero is walking in a cloak along the city street. The hero's name is illyasviel. He is handsome with his hair pulled back into a ponytail. The small moon rabbit has upgraded its skills. Now it is level 3. The leopard is level 27. The status is paralyzed. The dragon found the escaped leopard. Even paralyzed, tried to hit the hare. Suddenly the hare used fire glow, here's ear dance. Although the hare looked menacing, it did not affect the damage to the leopard. The paralyzed status of the leopard became normal. The dragon defeated the leopard. Both the hare and the dragon received 108 experience points. The dragon was surprised that he increased his level, but the hare increased his level from 3 to 6 at once. It's really interesting what happened to the hare. The dragon was interested in whether he could raise the hare's rank to D. While the dragon was thinking about this, the hare began to eat the leopard's body. The dragon still shared with him, but he decided to roast the rest of the meat. Interestingly, moon hares also like fried meat. While the dragon was eating the cooked meat, he remembered black lizards. At that time, the hare was eating the leopard like crazy. It looks like the hare has a black hole instead of a stomach. A scary monster, like a kettle on paws the size of a house, runs straight ahead. The adventurers confront him. They attack. The adventurers used spiraling arrow, powerful strike. It succeeded in striking. One of the adventurers used moonlight, a powerful sword strike. The 4 adventurers dealt with the monster easily. The villager stood aside and watched them all this time. She was absolutely delighted with how the adventurers dealt with the monster easily. There was no time to rest. A huge stone ball was visible ahead. It was a C-rank big vase turtle. The adventurers did not want to endanger it. There are many monsters in this forest. Fighting them will help the village girl raise her rank. 2 of the adventurers turned out to have taken another order and went to do it. So they agreed to meet in a few days. It was decided that 3 adventurers would go to the order. If the order was cancelled, a fine would have to be paid. And one Meltia and a village girl, Miria, would follow the trail of the dragon of disasters and diseases, to which Miria responded happily. 3 adventurers reached the place of the sanctuary. One of them met the dragon. In this place, the dragon evolved. The sanctuary looked like a wall and there was a statue. The place was what they were looking for. But here's the rub, the statue was not there. There was also a strange smell. Maybe the statue was further away. One of the adventurers had a stuffy nose. The others smelled something, hoping it wasn't something poisonous. Meanwhile, Miria and the adventurer were looking for traces of the dragon. Unfortunately for Miria, she couldn't do much to help, to which she was assured that it wasn't her fault. The girl Miria was made fun of for having topographic problems. It seemed that the adventurers were lost. The adventurer was absolutely sure that the statue was here. She thought that there were no problems with memory and orientation. The company came to the decision to move on. The girl watches from behind the bushes at the wall before leaving. She never saw the statue at the wall. Previously, there was a semblance of an entrance at the wall. On one side stood a dragon, and on the other side a monkey. The monkeys are worried. They are looking for someone without success. They even try to whistle to find the boss. The black lizard is back. The lizard is the sister of the monkeys. It looks nervous, but it's not because the boss is not visible. The lizard asks to remove the statue from the wall. She is very worried. It's like someone is coming from the forest. The monkeys are shocked. And now we return to the moment when the adventurers came to the sanctuary. The monkeys moved the statue further into the sanctuary. The lizard saw the girl Miria. The lizard remembered this girl. The lizard is worried about the girl's appearance. And she looks out of the open entrance in the rock, along with the monkeys. The lizard watches the adventurers leave. The lizard is determined. The monkeys realize that these people are connected to the boss and she wants to go with them. The monkeys stayed in the sanctuary to wait for the boss. The lizard leaves the sanctuary. Miria senses out of the corner of her eye that something is wrong. The girl is worried that everything is okay with the dragon Ilsia. The adventurer reassures her that for a monster of such rank, this should not affect much. Meanwhile, the monster itself is the dragon Ilsia. The locals of the deserted city swarm the hero from all sides. They bombard him with questions about his exploits, his travels, and magical creatures. The hero smiles modestly at this, saying that the locals are flattering him. Although inside he felt completely different, literally enjoying every enthusiastic exclamation. In his mind, he felt it as a healing shower, or a pleasant rain shower. Harine is a remote desert city where heroes like ours are rare. Folklore is not important there. Such cities usually exist on the donations of believers. This city is considered Holy Land. He still continued to listen to the joyful cries of the inhabitants. Although he considered them insignificant parasites, he was glad of their praises of his beloved self. More and more people were gathering. Due to the big crush, problems could happen. Therefore, the hero made a high jump somewhere in the area of the roofs of the houses. Standing on the wall, the hero apologized and said that he still needed to make a report to the church. He promised to meet another time. The hero decided that moving by jumping on the roofs would attract even more attention. For this reason, he decided to go down and walk through the alleys. Walking along the city streets, he met many poor residents. These were very poor areas. The difference between the square, where he had recently appeared, and these streets was huge. These streets reminded the hero of a garbage dump. He was interrupted from his thoughts that the city had become an even bigger dump by a child. The little child grabbed the hero by the edge of his cloak. Looking at him with big eyes, he said that he always wanted to talk to the hero. The hero made a gesture with his weapon, which allowed him to quickly move it away from the child. He did it so quickly and deftly that the child lost it. The hero walked quickly, cursing under his breath. If there hadn't been people around, he would have cut the little guy in half. The reason was that the child touched his cloak with his dirty hands. But suddenly, something appeared on the boy's hand. He didn't notice how he scratched himself. In fact, it was our hero who used the cursed sword without him noticing. This sword deals poison damage that paralyzes and causes madness. Gradually, the cursed one dies. The hero only regretted that he wouldn't be able to personally watch the boy die in a few days. Desert. The dragon and the moon rabbit are still walking together. Our dragon has already become plague. Both were in normal condition. The rabbit was eating something. They have been wandering together for the second day. And surprisingly, the hare's condition is normal. The hare eats calmly on the dragon's head. The dragon tests its dragon scale abilities. This time the abilities are described in great detail. The curse is applied when the dragon spreads its wings. It is applied slowly. The dragon feels like a carrier of a dangerous disease with a sign on his forehead. Decided to look at the plague breath ability. It's a breath attack that spreads to everyone indiscriminately. This desert is very wide. The idea arose to use roll and run as fast as he could. The dragon thought that he could squeeze a hare with his teeth. The hare reacted immediately. He began to flap his ears loudly. thus protesting against the dragon's idea, mentally warning that in an emergency he would do so. And the hare understood this thought too? How? The dragon decided to check if the hare had such an ability as reading thoughts. But he didn't have time to do it. There was some creature ahead behind the cactus. A mutated camel with level 8. The camel had 3 heads. Looking at the camel's properties, imagining what it would taste like, the dragon decided that he couldn't miss such a chance. But it seems the camel decided to run away. As he approached the camel, the dragon saw that the monster was moving in a strange way. It was like a haymaker spider. Horribly slow and disgusting, in the dragon's opinion. This camel has a rank of D. The dragon thought that this would be the best for training the hare. The battle began. The dragon easily began to destroy the camel. The dragon used paralyzing claw. The camel was in critical condition. At that moment, the dragon launched the hare to attack. The hare menacingly flew to devour the camel with the command from the dragon tear to shreds. The hare deals damage to the paralyzed camel. The dragon decides that it is his turn to go. He removes the hare that is eating the camel. It is time to use plague breath on the camel. It looks like squid ink, but the camel still holds on. As it turns out, in practice, plague breath still deals damage like a curse. Due to the difference in ranks, the effectiveness of this breath is so-so. On a camel, the effect is weak. The dragon finishes off the camel with its paws. 32 experience points were gained. I decided to cook the camel meat. The hare at that moment flies in a jump to devour the food. At the very moment when the dragon uses the red-hot breath. The dragon incinerated the camel with his breath. The hare was unharmed. The hare was in shock. The dragon apologized to him for that. He was afraid that the hare might catch the curse of the plague breath. And then again in the distance, dust from some quick movement. Again that huge centipede. It looks like this is the same centipede they met earlier. The hare and the dragon need to get out quickly. The dragon took a closer look. This centipede is chasing someone. This arthropod creature is chasing a cart with people in it. The dragon doesn't understand where this cart with people came from. It seems the centipede saw the dragon with its detection skill. The dragon decides to leave the hare and catch up with the centipede. A look at the abilities reveals that it is a level 60 giant sand centipede rushing towards him. With its level of abilities, the dragon knows that he cannot defeat it. What should he do? The dragon has a plan. He is faster than this centipede if he rolls, and so the centipede will be distracted by him if he grabs the tail of the scolopendra. The dragon grabbed the centipede's tail. She didn't slow down at all. The centipede didn't notice the dragon at all. The centipede was preparing for something. The dragon thought she was charging up an attack. Dragon uses Dragon Strike. Scolopendra uses Heat Strike. They clash. The carriage is still racing. The driver is urging on 2 horses. It seemed to the dragon that she must change her target. The centipede's heat stroke is still not over. It destroys everything in its path. The centipede cut off one of its tails. Is there a chance that it will grow back like a lizard's? Something flew past the centipede at high speed from the sky. Scolopendra seems to be one of those creatures that does not let its prey go. What? She prepared herself for the heat beam again. And this skill uses a lot of mana. The thought arose that she decided to get rid of the carriage. The centipede slowed down. Had she changed her mind? The carriage stopped. The coachman decided to leave the leash and continue escaping on horseback. But something was wrong. There were people locked in the cart. Apparently they were prisoners. Their hands were cuffed. The centipede aimed at them. The cargo was people. Women were among them. With one blow, she destroyed the cart and the people. Everyone was dead. The coachman was still galloping, looking back cowardly. While the centipede was dealing with the cart, the dragon used fire breath. It was a terrible sight. The cart was in pieces. Dead people were scattered. The scanner showed that one was alive. The dragon carefully took the survivor into its mouth. The centipede now aimed at the dragon. The dragon thought that she was offended that he took her prey. The dragon took off with all its might. Scolopendra launched its powerful blow after the flying dragon. He must not fall under the attack of the centipede. The skills of the Master of Dodge and the spirit of salvation of the dragon have increased. The centipede is furious, looking at the flying away dragon. Even with the dragon's increasing strength, he could do nothing. The dragon carefully placed the surviving girl on the ground. The dragon was glad that he saved at least one. The scanner showed that the girl's name was Nina Nifa. She was a beastman. The girl was in shackles. On the shackles it was written that she was a slave. It turns out that there is slavery in this world. We need to stop her bleeding, otherwise she will die. Is there a plant nearby that helps stop the bleeding? Even though the dragon returned to the place where he left the rabbit was nowhere to be seen. The dragon went to look for the rabbit. The girl woke up at that moment. She was very surprised that she was alive. There was no one nearby. It was unclear where she was, where the others were. At that moment, the dragon came. The first impression the dragon made on the girl was frightening. She got scared and seemed to faint. The dragon found the rabbit. He was fine. He attacked the camel and ate him. Now the dragon needs to find grass to stop the girl's bleeding. But then the girl saw the dragon and fainted again. It's hard to find such grass. There are only cacti and nothing around. You can use clothes as a bandage, but how to do it carefully. The rabbit also does not have healing magic. But there is something else. The rabbit approached the girl. Maybe one of the skills he had could help her? The dragon hoped that the rabbit didn't see the girl as food. It seemed that because of the dragon's saliva that the girl was in, the rabbit didn't see her as food. But he was clearly angry. The dragon suggested that the rabbit could use the rest skill on the girl. Perhaps it would help stop the bleeding. The dragon was already furious that he couldn't explain to the rabbit what he wanted from him. The rabbit doesn't go far. He comes back with a cactus needle. He waves this needle. The dragon is puzzled by what he is doing. The rabbit drew a piece of meat with a needle. The dragon suggested that the rabbit wanted meat for saving the girl. The dragon agreed. Maybe the voice of God was involved in this, that the rabbit got such a skill at the right time, remembering everyone the dragon defeated. Almost all of them had the recovery skill. The rabbit uses the skill on the girl. Her health is gradually restored. The dragon is in a panic. The girl will wake up soon. The dragon needs to go somewhere, do something. The dragon's fear is that if the girl wakes up and sees him again, she will faint again. How to explain everything to the dragon? He gave her water from a cactus. The idea arose to take her to the nearest city. Where to find it? And if there is a slave trade in this city for beastmen, that means they won't take care of it there. And then the dragon remembered that he had once seen a beastman, and he didn't look like a slave. If only he knew where it was. The dragon has the human transformation skill at level 3. He speaks a little of the Grisia language. Many questions in his head. The transformation process has begun. The dragon turned into a man, but not completely. The dragon became human-like, but still a dragon. The size decreased to human. The rabbit is simply terrified. What to do if the rabbit reacts like this? The problem is that the dragon did not see his reflection and did not understand what was going on. The dragon has 3 minutes, since mana is limited to 1 unit of mana per second. Mana is spent. The girl does not come to her senses. The dragon is already impatiently yelling at her to wake up. The dragon had 2 minutes left, and the girl opened her eyes. The girl jumped up in horror and began to run away from the dragon, squealing so that the dragon would not eat her. The dragon had 1.5 minutes left. The dragon remembered that Millia had once laughed at a certain pose. He had to adopt it. The girl is terrified and doesn't even look at the dragon. The dragon tries to speak. He tries to say something with great difficulty. The girl listens. The dragon says that he was once a man. The girl repeated his phrase about the man. The dragon was glad that she understood him. The dragon was reminded of the situation of Beauty and the Beast. He had less than a minute left. The dragon said it was dangerous to stay here. He asked the girl where he could go. She seemed to understand. The dragon's mana was almost gone. She doesn't know where to go, which she said. The dragon thought he should have asked her about how she got into slavery first. In the end, the mana was almost gone. The dragon began to turn back into a dragon. Watching this process, the girl fainted again. The dragon's human transformation level increased to level 4. The dragon also felt very tired and lost consciousness. The dragon woke up. Judging by the amount of mana, half a day had passed. The rabbit was not far from the dragon. He heard that the dragon woke up. The rabbit looked after the dragon while he was unconscious. The dragon thanked him. The clever rabbit cuddles next to the dragon. The girl hasn't woken up yet either, but she's almost recovered. The dragon has completely forgotten about her shackles. With one movement of the dragon's claw, the shackles are torn apart. The dragon understands that he needs to bring water and food. The dragon cannot take the rabbit with him. He asked the rabbit to look after Nina. The dragon gestured that he was going to get food. Smart rabbit. The dragon rushed off to search. In a panic, the dragon runs around looking for cacti and camel. There are no cacti anywhere. Did the rabbit eat everything? But the dragon found a big cactus. He was about to grab the cactus. But then one huge needle pierced his shoulder. The dragon felt great pain. The cactus was moving? What? In front of the dragon was a C-rank monster, a mixture of a cactus and a camel. Having lived for 200 years, the cactus gained magical abilities, as well as the ability to move. The dragon was looking for them separately, and found such a miracle. Is this monster even edible? Maybe it's better to look some more. The needle that stuck into the dragon tasted like a normal cactus. Rank C is not that dangerous. We need to figure it out quickly and get back to the rabbit. On one side is a C-rank monster, Cactus Tolfilios, level 46. On the other side is Ilsia, a B-rank monster, a dragon of calamity and disease, level 22. Despite its rank, the cactus camel has too high a skill level. The dragon used the sickle strike skill. The blow landed on the prickly monster's throat. The cactus camel roared loudly. The dragon began throwing blow after blow with the sickle at the monster. The dragon's skill level increased. The blow didn't work well against the slug, but it might be possible to kill this creature. The dragon thought that this was the perfect moment to farm experience. The dragon checked the status, but there was no status. The monster simply disappeared, and the dragon did not receive any experience either. Needles began to stick out from all sides of the dragon, and gradually a cactus monster appeared. It was several times larger than the dragon itself. The dragon seemed to be trapped. To examine the situation, the dragon decided to fly up. It turned out that the cactus monster had the mirage skill. It had been an illusion all this time. The dragon had wasted his time. Although the cactus camel is slow, it finds ways to hide from view. The cactus camel sees the flying dragon and uses the sandstorm skill. The prickly monster managed to interrupt the dragonflight skill. The cactus monster uses two skills at once, mirage and sandstorm. The dragon can't rely on its hearing or sight, so it can't tell the real thing from an illusion. It can't view the status either. The dragon found a real cactus monster. He found it a little unfairly, but otherwise the dragon might die. The dragon takes a swing at the cactus monster. The blow hits the spiky monster right in the center of its body. The dragon epically decapitates the spiky monster. It can be done with one hit. The dragon's decapitation skill has been increased to level 3 and 504 experience points have been gained. Ilya has defeated the cactus camel. The dragon has immediately risen 7 levels. The corpse of a real monster will not disappear anywhere. The dragon can't carry such a large corpse, so he needs to hurry. So the dragon decided to take as much as he can carry for now. The dragon returns to the rabbit and the girl as quickly as possible. The girl woke up. She was sitting and petting the rabbit. The rabbit was sitting cutely on her lap and cuddling. The dragon came closer. The girl's reaction was the same. She screamed in horror. The rabbit, seeing the dragon, jumped off his lap and ran towards him. The girl managed to name the rabbit. The dragon came to the conclusion that appearance still decides everything. The rabbit galloped towards the dragon for food. In the dragon's paws were the crushed meat of the monster. The rabbit looked desperately at the dragon and the parts of the monster's carcass he had brought. They were crushed. The dragon did not lose his head, and threw more parts of the carcass out of his mouth. He also handed the girl the food he had brought. The girl looked at the food, presented by the dragon, in confusion. She decided to take the food. The girl thought that she had been saved by the dragon in a dream. It was necessary to return to that corpse. The rabbit definitely had not eaten enough of what the dragon had brought. The rabbit immediately quickly jumped onto the dragon's head, but the girl did not dare. Then the dragon took her as carefully as possible with his paw, immediately apologizing for it. The dragon sat her on his head. The girl opened her eyes in fear and saw where she was. At least she wasn't losing consciousness anymore. The dragon decided to move slower than usual, so as not to scare the girl. The sun was shining beyond the horizon, and ahead was the desert. They should have reached the right place by now. An unpleasant picture awaited them ahead. A pack of yang-yangs, similar to kites or wolves, were gnawing at the carcass. They were level 23, rank D. The yang-yangs looked back at the formidable dragon. The dragon can't chase them because there's a girl on it now. The rabbit doesn't count with its rank and killer aura. Another one was hiding. The dragon decided to quickly get the meat. The last one hiding began to run away. The rabbit was very menacing and tense. The girl stopped being afraid of the dragon. Illyasviel won the girl's trust. The exploration of the desert with the rabbit and the girl Nina continues. Around there is only a desert and a ruined city, with columns and ancient temples like ancient Greek. Everything around is destroyed. There is no one nearby. Among the ruins they come across something like an entrance. People used to live here a long time ago. The ruins seem to be over 100 years old. The Trinity goes inside. Nina notices that it smells like water. The girl points to the side at a possible source of water. They come out into the desert. But ahead, what is it? An oasis. All three are very happy about this find. The dragon decided that this was a great place for his base. The beastman's sense of smell is amazing. Even the dragon doesn't have it. The scanner shows that there is a camel-shaped monster nearby. Today the travelers will have a feast. The dragon stops to let the rabbit and Nina come down. The scanner shows that the rabbit is already level 10 out of 12. The rabbit goes into battle on the camel. They both dealt with the camel. The rabbit raised its level to the maximum. Having eaten its fill, the rabbit rested. At this rate, the rabbit will be able to rise to rank D. The rabbit sneezed. The dragon became suspicious. The camel also sneezed when the dragon cursed him. The dragon thought about it, checked the rabbit's status. The condition was normal, and the rabbit's behavior was generally sluggish. Perhaps the status was not updated because it was still in its initial stage. Over time, the curse will develop and manifest itself more. HP and experience are also not restored. The dragon assumed that this was the rabbit's last meal. We must say goodbye here, on the shore of the oasis. Nina is already on the dragon's head. She is delighted with the view. The rabbit lies upset. He pressed himself against the dragon's muzzle. It seems the rabbit understands that they will not see each other again. The rabbit seemed to be stuck to the dragon. The farewell dragged on and became harder. The dragon decided to cook a roast camel. But something was wrong. Meanwhile, in the city church, the coachman who transported the beastmen arrived to the bishop. He tells him with fear about the giant centipede. Also that they lost all the beastmen slaves. The bishop is angry. The bishop said it was a blessing that at least the slave carrier had survived. The worried slave carrier asked the bishop about the heroes being supposed to deal with the centipede. The bishop confirmed that it was and suggested that a new one had appeared. The carrier loudly declares that their routes go through the desert and they must be safe. The bishop conducts a calm conversation. The carrier does not understand how he can be so calm in this situation. The translator also remembered that he saw a dragon while running away. It seemed to him that the dragon was taking prey from a sand centipede. The bishop, although surprised, still remains calm. The more the carrier remembered, the more confident he was in his words. The carrier expressed concern that the country could suffer from these monsters. The ferryman is already furious and demands that the church do something already. The bishop asks again about the dragon with distrust. The bishop rises from his seat, thinking that the bath is noisy. It would be convenient for the bishop if the carrier simply paid the money and did not complain. In the bishop's office, someone agreed with his words. The hero Illyasviel sat on the bishop's table. Although the bishop asked not to enter without warning, Illyasviel did not listen to him and again did it his own way. The bishop expressed doubt about the work of the heroes. Hero Illyasviel said that in other countries they are talking about the abolition of slavery of beastmen. It was decided not to interfere with the centipede situation, but simply to observe. The centipede would get rid of all slave trade routes. And the hero spoke maliciously about the situation with the merchant, the carrier of slaves. The situation of the beastmen has changed greatly in many countries, but in one city the beastmen continue to be traded. This has a negative effect on the hero's reputation. The hero was interested in the merchant's information about the dragon and the fact that the dragon took the prey from the centipede. The bishop expressed doubt that people would believe it. Hero Ilsia suggests conducting reconnaissance to find out if it is true about the dragon of diseases. The bishop thinks that the merchant hit his head while running away from the centipede. The hero has information that dragons of diseases can fly. The bishop still insists that such rare B-rank dragons very rarely appear in these places. Still, the hero insists on reconnaissance. The bishop realized that the hero was up to something. The hero hints that this could threaten the people of the kingdom. The bishop is outraged by the hero's impudence. The hero points out that if the truth is revealed, the responsibility will lie with him, the bishop. It was decided to send night scouts. A scouting squad has been sent out from the city. It is a capable squad. They have not only carried out reconnaissance, but will bring back the dragon's head. The hero with the sword stands in front of a large dragon. It is a B-rank stone dragon, level 34. The hero is not impressed by the dragon's level. With a powerful blow of his sword, the hero calmly deals damage to the stone dragon. The stone dragon was blown to pieces, and the hero only said that he was not impressed. The hero received 544 experience. After defeating the monster, the hero turns to his servant. The servant stands hidden behind a tree. Before the battle, the hero ordered the servant to come forward and divert attention to himself. The servant began to justify himself and ask for forgiveness. The angry hero cuts off the servant's head. The head flew off to the side. The only thing that annoyed him was that now there was no one to set up camp. The hero decided to go to the village, which is not far from this place. He went into a local tavern. The locals began to ask him about his fate. The hero said that he had been traveling since he became an adult. He also had to defeat the Lord of Darkness. One of the local old men mentioned that this lord had appeared somewhere. The locals laughingly said that the hero would be able to cope with anyone alone. They began to irritate the hero. According to legends, the city of Haranaya used to be on the site of the desert. It became a desert after the fight between the hero and the ruler. Now the hero is unlikely to defeat the ruler. He needs to acquire a special skill to do so. One of the tavern's visitors suggested making a deal with the lord. If he understood human speech, the girl drew attention to the situation and the hero. The girl's name was Maria, and she worked in this tavern. She did a good job. The tavern owner suggested going to listen to the hero's stories. The hero noticed her. He came up with a plan to snag her and take her as his servant. Very conveniently, she has the ability to heal. It seems a brawl is starting in the tavern. One of the customers, Dawes, did not believe the hero. He did not believe that he alone dealt with the stone dragon. The other customers tried to calm Dawes down. The hero decided to check Dawes' status. It turned out he was an ordinary person. His stats were also quite ordinary. When he looked at the status, the hero started laughing, to which the ringleader reacted. With the words, "Why are you smiling?" he swung at the hero. The hero was already behind Dawes. He beat Dawes with one movement of his hand. All the visitors were amazed by the hero's skill. The hero holds Dawes' hands behind his back. Dawes tries to break free and still screams shrilly to let him go. After looking at him, the hero realized that this Dawes was the best in this village. And of course, the hero was not to his taste. Even in such a vulnerable position, Dawes tried to shut the hero up, to which the hero went berserk. He angrily slapped Dawes with his hand. The hero continues to insult Duza. At this point, Maria couldn't stand it. She ran to Duza and used healing magic. The hero was surprised by this. The hero noticed that the residents were looking at him strangely. It seemed he had attracted a lot of attention. Making a submissive, sincere face, he bowed to the residents, apologizing for his actions. To this, the visitors began to chatter that Dawes got what he deserved, and that it was his own fault. In his head, the hero went over the reactions of Maria, Dawes, and the old man to what had happened. Dawes was quite capable of truly challenging the stone dragon. He mentally wished for Dawes to end his days with the most absurd death. The rabbit sat sadly in front of the dragon. The dragon was sad too, but nothing could be done about the curse on the rabbit. The dragon thought that he should not give free rein to his feelings. otherwise they would take over. The dragon is upset. It's hard for him, too. He remembered how hard it was to let Miria go. Something also needs to be done about the strange thing behind the dragon. The dragon detected it with its heightened senses. The dragon will be ready if this unknown thing attacks. At that moment, a giant slug with many eyes and a mouth full of teeth pounced. The dragon is disgusted even to touch this slug with bare hands. The slug flew out and flew at the dragon. The girl Nina and the rabbit are shocked. Looking at the slime's status shows that it is a level 54 C-rank Amagurashi creature. Our dragon is level 29. The dragon's plan is to get in a few good hits. Maybe that'll bring him down. The slime's skill levels aren't high. Nina froze in fear. The rabbit woke up earlier and pulled Nina to the side. The dragon is grateful to the rabbit for this. Amagurashi began to use his mirage skill. As it turned out, the dragon reacts to an empty space. The dragon moved away a little and went invisible. Amagurashi uses mirage less skillfully compared to the cactus camel. It seems the dragon has become somewhat able to distinguish illusions, but it still wasn't working very well. Even though he is a slug, he is much faster than he seems. Nina worries about the dragon. The dragon also thinks about her. It was necessary to get close to the slug, accepting the thought that the dragon will wash itself later. The dragon came close to the slug to strike. He tore off one of the eyes and the dragon threw it aside. Amagurashi screams. The dragon sees the slug use the regeneration skill. Maybe the slug just needs to be hit until its health points are zeroed out. The dragon decided to endure his dislike for the slime. He ran to deliver a crushing blow. At that moment, the slug began to spew something out of itself, a powerful fountain. The slime was all around. The released slime washed the slug babies. These were eggs from which mini slugs quickly hatch. All that slime was eggs. Many little slimes appeared in one moment. The dragon decided to use the Breath of Inferno. Although the Breath of Inferno can destroy the little slugs, it does not cause damage to them too much. The little slugs approach Nina and the rabbit. The rabbit is angry. Even though he is at the maximum level, he can't handle so many slugs. The dragon rushed to help the rabbit and Nina, but he fell and can't get up. The rabbit evolved into a peach rabbit, immediately increasing its rank to D. But now its level has become 1. The rabbit has acquired the whirlwind skill. This is when he makes a whirlwind with his ears. After killing several baby slugs, he immediately increased his level to 4. Nina is also pleasantly surprised. It seems the rabbit doesn't need the dragon's help. The rabbit is doing just fine on its own. Meanwhile, the dragon has reached level 30. The dragon is screaming to be washed with water quickly. Meanwhile, the big slug has disappeared. It seems to have escaped, making a big hole. The dragon had a feeling of being surrounded. Probably a big slug would rise from the ground now. And then it happened. A slug has crawled out from under the ground. But it feels strange. It's more like a cluster of small slugs covered in a mirage. But something else has been discovered. It looks like a real big slug. The slug took him face to face. The dragon tossed a large slug. While the slug was flying, the dragon read its status. From it, the dragon understood that when the slug goes underground, it means it has problems. So the slug needs to be killed in the air. The dragon uses the skill Dragon Fist. With this skill, the dragon throws the slug upward. The Dragon Fist skill was used. The slug flew even higher again. The dragon throws up a slug, almost done with it. It seems that the slug has been defeated. A cluster of small slugs remains. The dragon used Inferno Breath to defeat the small slugs. The rabbit became super strong. He used Torch, Swallow Whole, and Whip Dance at the same time. The dragon decided to wash himself for now. He approached the oasis water, but it became like a swamp. The dragon certainly heard that the oasis disappears and becomes a mirage, but that the swamp. Nina also noticed something strange with the water. The dragon reads information about the slug. It turned out that the slug makes its nest in the form of a puddle. To lure victims, the slug makes the puddle attractive with the help of a mirage. The dragon's illusion resistance level has increased to level 2. While the dragon laments that his oasis is gone, a squad of horsemen approaches. The scout commander reports that this is the habitat of a giant centipede. Everyone should be on guard. One of the scouts reports that the oasis has changed color to dirty black. The commander realized that it was an amagarashi nest. The illusion was dispelled, and this meant that the slug was defeated by a stronger monster. It was probably a centipede or an ogre ant. Or maybe this. The scout squad has a chance to earn the glory of dragon slayers. To do this, they need to get the skin of the dragon of disasters. While the dragon decides to drink from a puddle, a new attack is coming at him, the scout squad. The rabbit became a fluffy peach rabbit. I wonder what his abilities will be. He has a strong stomach and can eat almost anything. Nina was also surprised that the rabbit had evolved. For a dragon, this phrase about evolution sounds offensive. The rabbit has many resistant skills. The rabbit has acquired resistance to the curse, including the dragon scales. The dragon is very happy about this, and so is the rabbit, apparently having sensed or read the dragon's thoughts. Nina also noticed their joy. The dragon can now begin to solve Nina's problems, and this is more difficult. The dragon needs to check the rabbit's other statuses. The rabbit has very unusual abilities. The dragon was especially surprised by telepathy. The rabbit also has food regeneration, the ability to recover. All these vital skills give the rabbit excellent adaptability. The monkey also had telepathy. The dragon thought that the rabbit could be used as a translator and there would be no need to use humanization. Since the rabbit has become much stronger, Nina can be left with him. It is more difficult to survive together in the desert. The dragon cannot decide on a course. The rabbit cannot be used as a translator for the conversation with Nina. It is necessary to wait for the restoration. But then something else began to be heard. The horses are galloping. They are still in the distance. The dragon does not see who exactly is approaching them. But someone is definitely racing in their direction. The knights are galloping towards the dragon. Nina sensed that they were people. The dragon notices that the riders are not turning anywhere. He wonders what their goal is. The riders rush straight at the dragon. The commander orders not to come too close, but to attack the dragon from a distance. The dragon understands that the rider's target is himself. The dragon's rider's status view hasn't loaded yet, but it's already clear that they're fast. So the dragon decides it's best to run. The rabbit, thinking he'll be eaten again, dives underground. The dragon tries to collect his thoughts. The dragon is thinking that he can negotiate with him with Nina's help. But it seems that the riders are not in a peaceful mood. The riders notice Nina next to the dragon, and also notice that she is a beastman. After looking at the knight's statuses, the commander was very brave. The dragon also noticed that they had come from the other side. The riders looked at the dragon's status. The dragon understands that the knights are very serious. They can harm Nina. The horse has a D rank. The composition of skills is very simple. The squad is very serious, determined to attack the dragon. Even the dragon is thinking about it. Some of the riders themselves are confused that they will really attack such a strong dragon with such a composition. The commander reports that he was once in a dragon enslavement unit. The commander expects the dragon to be exhausted after an attack from the Magarashi. The commander orders the squad to surround the dragon while he distracts it. He aims arrows straight at the dragon's eyes. The horse Maria is very fast. The commander directs it towards the dragon. The dragon grabbed the horse by the tail. The rider flew away. The other knights were shocked. The commander who flew away is still alive, and the horse Maria galloped away. Maria threw the captain. The remaining knights rushed in panic and shock. In this confusion, some called for the soldiers to return back. The dragon realized that the party was confused. The dragon came up with an idea to negotiate using the humanization technique, but then his attack power and defense would be halved, not to mention his HP. The knights hear a voice in their heads telling them to leave. Otherwise, the dragon will swallow them and flay their skin. The knights assume that this is the voice of the dragon of disaster telling them. The dragon is confused too. The dragon has doubts. The squad runs away from the dragon in panic and terror. The dragon does not understand what has happened. He turns to look at the rabbit. The rabbit dug a hole to the place where the dragon and the cavalry squad collided. The dragon realized that the rabbit had used telepathy. The rabbit's helping spirit increased to level 7. The rabbit looked very proud and pleased. Suddenly, the rabbit in the dragon's clutches weakened. The rabbit's condition was coma. Apparently, the use of telepathy had exhausted him. The dragon understands that if those soldiers report, the dragon will be destroyed. The dragon and his company can't stay in one place. One of the living soldiers asks for help. The hero stands on one of the high stones near the city walls. He sees a detachment returning to the city. A squad of scout soldiers rides back to the city in terror, discussing along the way that the captain was eaten by a dragon. All their hopes are for a hero. The troop of horsemen dismounted upon seeing the hero. The hero waited for them to tell him what had happened. The soldiers told him that the dragon of disaster really exists. At first, the hero did not believe it. He thought that the soldiers had confused the dragon with a huge snake. The soldiers began to speak in turn, in the truth of their words and what had happened to the captain. The hero said out loud that the captain was just a small fry who liked to brag. The soldiers were shocked by what they heard. Only the captain was defeated from the squad, and this is not proof that it was the dragon of disaster. The hero speaks in riddles, saying that he needs to provoke the dragon. This will help get someone out of prison. The soldiers are confused. One of the soldiers asks the hero again, and immediately loses his head. The hero cuts off the soldier's head. The soldiers mounted their horses in horror and began to slowly retreat, and the hero told them about his plans to destroy the soldiers, giving them a 30-second head start. The hero began the countdown. The soldiers began to gallop away. The hero's eyes seemed to light up with excitement. One by one, the hero began to hunt people. This was not the first time for him. He enjoyed it. The hero assumed that if the soldiers were so panicked, the dragon of disaster really existed. The line to the temple stretched several meters outside. People were bringing donations. There was a meeting in the church. They discussed that the amount of donations had increased to over 40%. This increase is associated with the hero's return to the city. Humanitarian aid from other countries also increased. The reason for the increase in humanitarian aid was linked to the fact that the abolition of the beastman slave trade was being discussed in the church. Those present were interested in the question of a possible slave trader rebellion. The chief bishop suggested leaving everything as it was. It was time for reforms in the neighboring country. Also among the issues discussed was what to spend the increased income on. The bishop is not interested in these petty, in his opinion, questions. The bishop has a plan to become the cardinal of the main temple. The bishop will be the one who controls the hero. During the meeting, the bishop was informed that the hero had an urgent message right now during the meeting. The bishop left the assembly hall. The hero reported that the group of scouts was completely defeated, and the hero did not have time to intercept the detachment when the enemy was in place. The hero told the bishop that he had found the captain alive, and he told him about the real dragon of disasters. The bishop stands in shock and rage. The bishop immediately began to recall the information about the dragon of disasters, and immediately the thought that in case of a bad outcome, all responsibility would be on him. The hero saw all this confusion in the bishop's face. The hero decided to make a benefit out of this for himself. The bishop asks the hero in hope if he can handle the dragon. The hero says that he does not know about the dragon of disasters as an opponent, and therefore does not know if he can handle the dragon. The hero offered permission to accompany the former commander-in-chief of the night. The bishop is even more furious about this permission. Apparently, the bishop does not have a very good relationship with this commander-in-chief. And this knight is the most influential person in the country. The confrontation between the hero and the bishop continues. The bishop is very much against this idea of the hero. The hero presses, asking the question, what will happen if there are many victims? The bishop's arguments end. The hero cannot believe that even such a threat to his reputation does not work. The hero remembers the former commander-in-chief Adolf as a noble man. He threatened the bishop that he was aware of the poorly conducted investigation into Adolf. The hero suspects that Adolf was imprisoned because of his criticism of the church. The hero covered himself by saying that these were just rumors. But these rumors could very well influence the Lord Bishop. The bishop is angry but cannot object to the hero's words. The hero's threats had an effect on the bishop. City prison. The stairs go down. There are guards below. A hairy man is shaking the bars desperately. He is screaming desperately that he needs to be thoroughly investigated. The guards are talking among themselves that it is Mr. Adolf again. He screams this every day. But no one hears him. The guards are talking among themselves that if rumors are to be believed, Adolf was imprisoned because of a conflict with the church. Footsteps are heard in the corridor. The hero approaches the cell bars. Adolf is not very happy to see him. Adolf does not understand why the hero came here. After all, the hero was on a trip abroad, to which the hero said that he came here because of Adolf's problems. Adolf told the hero to behave more naturally. Adolf did not believe his feigned politeness. The hero decided to press him more, and recalled why he was imprisoned for the murder of his brother and sister-in-law. This infuriated Adolphe. He slammed his fist into the bars. It seemed that this was exactly what the hero needed. The hero said that he believed Adolf, and that he personally asked the bishop to take better care of Adolf. He also said that the priest promised to re-examine the incident. Adolf did not believe it. The hero tells Adolf under what conditions he will be released on parole. And this is if Adolf is under the hero's protection. Adolf is distrustful of the hero, all because of the incident between them that happened 4 years ago. The hero is assured that this is not so. The hero tells Adolf that he needs to be patient for a while and wait for the hero with good news. Even despite his mistrust, Adolf is grateful to the hero this time. The hero has not forgotten anything. Adolf forced him to disgrace himself 4 years ago. So with the help of the Dragon of Disasters, the hero will take revenge on Adolf. The hero's cruel character is increasingly revealed. In the desert, near a swampy puddle, Nina wakes up and stretches. Nina lay down on the rabbit and they fell asleep together. The girl was a little surprised. A dragon was sleeping nearby. The dragon scared Nina again. This time because he slept buried in the sand and slept at a distance. He did this so as not to harm the rabbit and Nina with his dragon curse, so that the scales would not fly off. The problem is that the dragon had no idea at what distance the curse weakens. Does the wind direction affect this? The dragon ponders the length of the curse using the rabbit as an example. While he was pondering, he realized that he had lost the rabbit. The rabbit was peacefully drinking water from a swamp puddle. The dragon is shocked that a rabbit can drink this water. Meanwhile, Nina runs, preparing to jump. And then he jumps into the water. The dragon looks at the girl's action in horror. The dragon began to wonder if he could get sick while swimming in this slime. But it turned out to be the sea? The rabbit stuck his ears in there. The rabbit used the purification skill. Nina was surprised by such a change in water. The dragon envies the many useful skills of this rabbit. The rabbit takes care of Nina. And now he made the water clean for her. Now they began to communicate with each other using telepathy with Nina. But the dragon cannot communicate with her like that because of his frightening appearance. Although the rabbit could clean Nina's clothes, she decided to wash them herself. To do this, she took off her shirt. The dragon saw this. The girl saw his interested look and, embarrassed, covered her body with her hands. The girl came out of the water. She still felt awkward in front of the dragon. The dragon wanted to justify himself and explain himself to her, but he couldn't. But the rabbit could have passed on the information, but he was hungry. Apparently he couldn't pass on the information that way yet. The dragon made a grill out of a camel. Mentally told the rabbit to ask about a country where Nina would be safe. The rabbit got angry and shouted that Nina would be with them forever. But the curse of the dragon scales would weaken her gradually. The rabbit felt it himself. The dragon had questions. What if Nina, like the rabbit, also has resistance to the curse? Can she level up and protect herself? The soldier who remained alive would be useful to the dragon. With the help of telepathy, it was possible to find out a lot of useful things from him. A kind of telepathy session took place between the rabbit, the dragon, and Nina. Thus the rabbit told the dragon that Nina did not know where which country was. She had never seen a map. And the rabbit told Nina about the curse of the dragon scale. This worries her, although the dragon himself is glad that Nina is with them. The rabbit asked Nina about the scales, but there was a hitch. At that moment, the dragon noticed the approaching danger. The dragon grabbed Nina and the rabbit. The wind is like a hurricane around. Nina and the rabbit in the clutches of our dragon. Nina is very worried. The dragon is determined. A giant sand centipede crawled out in front of them. The broken tail indicated that it was the same scolopendra that the dragon had encountered last time. What if these monsters have memory and remember the dragon? These monsters are dangerous. Scolopendra is a B-ranked centipede. She is racing after our heroes. The dragon is also racing fast. This time, the dragon feels that it will end so easily. It will be too dangerous if the centipede uses its heat rays. Flying mode for the dragon is also not an option right now. The centipede will catch them as soon as they land. The best option for now is to use the escape. Like the idea of using the ruins of the city near the oasis, the centipede began to use its heat rays. The dragon saw this and managed to dodge. The dragon's main task now is to track the centipede's rays. The main question is whether it will be possible to reach the ruins. Things are bad. It's very hard for the dragon to break away from the centipede. He might not make it to the ruins. The dragon rushes at full speed towards the ruins of the old city. The giant centipede rushes after him. The dragon stopped in confusion. Was there a hole ahead? The dragon fell into a hole during the weight from the centipede. That's what saved them. What if it's a trap? A strange place. The corridor of the pit led somewhere. Perhaps it was some kind of structure. The cave turns out to be quite large. The dragon put the rabbit and Nina into his mouth to protect them. Nina was in a coma. The dragon only hoped that he hadn't hurt her in any way. The rabbit was fine. He was really angry, though. But it had to be done. At this moment, a giant centipede burst into the cave. The dragon admitted that they could not escape. The centipede was brought out from under the surface of the earth. The dragon watched in horror as the centipede opened its toothy mouth. The centipede couldn't move any further? The dragon froze, holding the rabbit and Nina in his paws. The dragon's assumption is that the centipede is stuck and can't move. This is to the advantage of the dragon and his company. The dragon admitted that the ruins were indeed strong. Perhaps this was a great chance. The centipede had already used Heat Ray 1 of 3. There is a chance to finish off the centipede here. The dragon needs to try. But the centipede launched a beam. The dragon protected himself by covering himself with a wing. The dragon is hurt by the centipede's beam. The dragon's guess is that the centipede used acidic saliva. The rabbit lowered the trio lower. It's reckless to start a fight with a centipede. The dragon used Furious Whirlwind. This blow was insufficient and useless. But the dragon raised Furious Wind to level 3. The entrance was blocked by a centipede. The dragon needed to find another way out of the cave. The dragon wondered if he should waste his energy and meekly surrender. Nina still hasn't woken up. The dragon asked the rabbit to look after the girl while he deals with the centipede. The rabbit touched Nina with his ears and was horrified by her condition. The rabbit began to swallow Nina whole. The dragon assumed that the rabbit had used the collecting skill inside the body. The dragon still had doubts whether Nina would be digested in this way. It was dark in the cave. The dragon could see, but it was still not enough. The rabbits helped here too. He made a kind of sun. The dragon is surprised at how many useful skills the rabbit has for life. The dragon told the rabbit to come down. The dragon's level was 36. The dragon's senses told him that something was wrong. 2 red ogre ants rank C, level 29, were approaching them. 2 C rank ant monsters moved towards the dragon. The dragon is thinking about how to defeat the ogre ants. The difficulty is that they must not reach the rabbit. The ants begin to make threatening clicking sounds. The rabbits telepathically tell the dragon to go up. The dragon doesn't understand yet what the rabbit wants to say. There's a centipede behind the dragon. Perhaps the rabbit means it will be possible to negotiate. The dragon thought the rabbit wanted the dragon to die. The ants start running. The ants have some strange movements. The dragon uses scorching breath. The ants attack the dragon one by one. The clay gun is used against the dragon. The dragon is damaged. The dragon is furious and very angry. The dragon managed to catch one. He throws the caught one with all his might. The dragon breaks its claws. One of the ants is dead. Several more ants run after them. The ogre ants, finding themselves in a disadvantageous position, began to retreat. These ants are quite smart. In addition, they have the skill of self-regeneration. Those who use these skills are good. The dragon mentally apologizes for not fighting a fair battle of attrition. Now the dragon and the ants are almost on equal footing. I wonder which of them will attack next. The ants started attacking first. They ran towards the dragon. They used the same tactics as before. The dragon uses the skill Furious Whirlwind. He decided not to hold back this time. Ants use the clay skill against the dragon. This skill allows you to manipulate the soil. The ants rush at the dragon as if they were made of clay. Then the ants use the clay gun skill. Pieces of soil fly at the dragon. The dragon uses fire against this technique, although he didn't want to use it because they are already underground. There is not enough air here. Unexpectedly for the dragon, the ant uses blazing. This takes the dragon by surprise. It is a mystery to the dragon how one of the ants ended up above him. One ant below, one above the dragon. This is bad, the dragon concludes to himself. The dragon cannot calculate the time this way. There is nothing left to do but apply the following. The dragon had been ignoring the ant from above. Now he decided to take it on first. He grabbed it with both paws and gnawed across the ant's body. The dragon tore the ant's body into 2 pieces. The dragon's level increased to 39. He immediately moved on to the second ant, which was below. He crushed it with his paw. After dealing with the second ant, the dragon's level rose to 42. Dragon Erucia status, slight bleeding. The dragon ponders that when there are many ants, such a battle tires him out. The dragon scale has reached level 5. To the dragon's surprise, this skill has also been leveled up thanks to the ants. The rabbit sensed the dragon's condition. He immediately came galloping. The rabbit vigorously uses his rest skill. The dragon's condition became normal. The dragon asks the rabbit to save his powers for lighting and telepathy, in case he has to negotiate with the monster. The rabbit is surprised by the dragon's thought. The dragon decides to wait until his wounds heal themselves. The ants are approaching again. This time, there are 3 of them. The ants' levels are much higher. The dragon doubts whether he will be able to break through this time. There are many more than 3 ants, and they are all heading towards the dragon. It turns out these are not just ruins. At a quick glance, the dragon counted 5 ants, but there were many more. Could they have gotten into an anthill? The adventurers fought. They were up against a powerful monster, with chicken-like paws, but several times larger than a chicken, and also with horns, clawed paws, and a long tail. In front of the adventurer and Miria was a monster, Kurojeti. Kurojeti had the same rank as a vase turtle, so it was a C rank. Miria, although she had more experience, was still not enough to fight such a monster. Together, they would definitely not win. The adventurer suggested hiding and waiting. It seemed that would work. If it weren't for the tail of the Kurojeti in the form of a snake. The snake smelled them. The adventurer emerged from hiding and cut off the snake's head with her sword. The adventurer understands that she won't be able to defeat this monster with a sword. But she will be able to buy Miria some time. She shouts at Miria to run away from here. Miria, being unsure of her abilities, decides to use fire magic. The adventurer, seeing this, is amazed by Miria. Fire magic is a spell of the highest magic and requires the most powerful concentration. Even if the damage from the spell is small, they have a chance of success. While the adventurer distracts the Kurojeti, she orders Miria to focus on magic. The Kurojeti is terribly strong, and it looks like the Kurojeti is going to blow the adventurer up from a distance. The adventurer saw this as a chance and pierced the monster's mouth with her sword. The moment the sword is in the monster's mouth is the perfect chance to shoot a fire sphere. Miria furiously launches a magic sphere. The fire sphere hits the target and tears the fire monster apart. Kurojeti falls dead. Miria is amazed. It is not yet clear whether the monster is dead or not. Kurojeti falls to the ground in an epic fashion. The adventurer praises Miria's magic. Suddenly, Kurojeti raises its clawed paw at the girls. It turns out that it is still alive. The girls are confused. The adventurer shouts at Miria to run. Kurojeti seems to have become even more furious than before. While Kurojeti is attacking the girls, he gets hit in the eye by a shock beam. This attack is devastating for the monster. Miria does not understand what is happening. Miria sees a black lizard in front of her. The black lizard is Arisha's friend. The lizard saved Miria. The girl looks at the lizard in surprise, while the lizard looks worriedly from the cliff. The lizard runs away from Miria very quickly. Miria realizes that the lizard may also be looking for Arisha. The adventurers approach the girl. It seems the dragon's guess about the anthill was correct. There are countless ants here. and their number is growing. The ants are approaching the dragon. The dragon and his company are in a hopeless situation. On one side, a multitude of ants are approaching. On the other side, a centipede. There are no forks. The dragon is thinking, his level is 42. Perhaps those first 2 ants were some kind of elite soldiers. Maybe the rest who arrived were lower level. After checking the status of the ants, they were indeed lower level. While the dragon was thinking about the fact that he has a 2 to 3 level error in viewing the status, the rabbit breaks into the dragon's thoughts with his telepathy, informs that they are about to be eaten by a centipede. The ants are also still advancing furiously. They are already here. The dragon has an option to crash head over heels into the ants. The outcome will be either he will not break through, or he will stop in the middle and be tortured to death. If the ants get closer, the dragon is finished. The dragon has no choice but to use burning breath. The ants managed to use the wall and blocked the dragon's attack. And then the ants use a clay cannon against the dragon. The dragon asks the rabbit to hide behind him. The dragon begins to tear the ants apart one by one. While in this battle, the dragon tears the ants apart one by one. The dragon remembers that the ants have a leader. Ants surround the dragon, including on the ceiling. They are everywhere. The dragon, having apologized in advance, launches a rabbit at the ants. Having torn apart another ant, the dragon is already screaming for them to attack him. The rabbit seems to be successfully dealing with the ants. The dragon notices one of the ants trying to attack him from above. Stopping one of the ants with his paw, the dragon uses fire breath. The ants continue to attack the dragon from the ceiling. Below, the ants are on fire. Several ants manage to pounce on the dragon from behind. A small tornado rises. This tornado sweeps away the ants to their death. For some reason, the dragon doesn't get points even if he kills ants. Maybe they have time to heal? The ants have blocked the dragon's legs. The dragon admits that these ants are very smart, and there are too many of them. So many that they surround the dragon and drag him down. Out of desperation, the dragon uses scorching breath again. It manages to free itself a little from the ant encirclement. The dragon's affairs are bad. He has little strength left. Meanwhile, the centipede moved further and further, and now it was almost to the dragon. The dragon thought that the centipede could reduce the number of ants by attacking. Apparently, this really was an ant nest. The centipede is so huge that it will simply crush everyone. Perhaps this is a great plan. It seems there are no other options. The dragon resigns himself to the fact that he has exhausted his limit of luck. The dragon remembers that he still has rabbits and Nina. He needs to fight. He uses Inferno Breath. Whether it works or not is unclear. The dragon needs to be alert and keep his distance. The dragon attacks with his fists, having caught his breath a little. Next to him is the rabbit and Nina. In this nest, the main ant uses clay and strengthens the defense. Even a centipede has a hard time getting through this wall. The dragon managed to destroy the clay wall with his last attack. The dragon managed to destroy the first layer of clay. The dragon suggests gnawing his way out and escaping through the hole. The rabbit looks at the dragon in bewilderment. The dragon tries to buy some time for the rabbit. Telepathically, the rabbit tells the dragon that he will not leave him. The dragon disagrees and tells the rabbit to think about Nina. Things are bad. The effect of the Inferno Breath is almost over. The rabbit needs to run. The rabbit stops the dragon. The rabbit assumes that the centipede is burned. The dragon turned around. The centipede really wasn't there. Did she chicken out? The dragon thinks. It looks like she's afraid of the ant's main thing. And the ants are still running at the dragon. No time to relax. The dragon grabs the rabbit and Nina and they fly away from this army of ants. The dragon flew out of this pit. It rose high above the ground. All of them were now on the verge of life and death. A centipede was visible below. Something cleaner than ants crawled out of the hole. They began to devour the centipede. The dragon watches from above the scene happening below. A horde of ants crawled out of their hole and began to devour the centipede. It seems she can't get rid of them, even though she tries. The centipede is clearly dead. While flying, the dragon thought that it could well be him in the place of the centipede. He needed to think about Nina. It was strange for the dragon that, being in such a position, he did not hear the voice of God. He was glad that God forgot about the dragon. All this time, God was watching him. God knew that the dragon was saved when the passage was clear, and in God's opinion, the dragon's situation was not so difficult. God remembered that hero. God intends to establish contact with him. The hero does not care about all those red ants. God does not care who will be the winner, the dragon, or the hero. For God, it is only entertainment, to watch while others suffer.